All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of TopBinTalks presented by FTF Canada. Today, we got a pretty good show for everyone, kind of recapping a bunch of the stuff that's actually quite recently been going on as of today and yesterday with the Champions League and the Canadian women. And then we got a pretty cool guest coming up at the end with someone we both played against. Funny enough, I don't think we're going to find too many of those, if I'm being honest. But today we will start with the Canadian women's national team going 2-0 against Australia down under. Good results for them.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I've got to see some of the recap. Canadian soccer has actually been pushing this game a lot. I know because it's in Australia, the time change is kind of difficult for guys to catch the game. But yeah, I seen the goals. There's great finishes by Adriana Leon, and there's some good performances all around. Very convincing performances, and we just got to keep pushing the envelope with development on the women's side and also attraction on the women's side, because there's some ballers out there, and they seem to be showing it at the club level, and now they're bringing it to the international level. So hopefully they can keep it going.
Yeah, massive. I mean, Caitlin Sheridan was huge in the first game. I think she made 3 or 4 saves on Sam Kerr, which were pretty stupid. And then Jade Rose, who we obviously everyone just saw at the U20s, who had a really good tournament. She captained that team, stepped up in the second game, and had a really good performance. And like you mentioned, Adriana just sealed her move to Man United from West Ham, and she steps up 3 goals in 2 games, and just it looks like they're starting to get. I hate to say it, but it looks like they're starting to get this little bit of an identity away from Christine Sinclair, which is probably the best thing possible, just for the group.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Christine Sinclair, obviously, she's the GOAT, like no doubt about it. But it takes a lot of pressure off of her, so she can literally just find the game herself when everybody around her is doing what they're supposed to be doing. She doesn't have to try to put the team on her back anymore. She's built trust through all the trials and tribulations that they went through, the Olympics twice, and now winning the bronze medal in those 2 Olympics, and now winning the gold in the most recent Olympics. So it takes the pressure off of her, and she can just, find the game herself.
She doesn't have to be the focal point.
That's what a lot of veteran players want, especially when they're coming to the back end of their career. Also, she tied for the most appearances for international women's soccer, second most, 218 or 218, I believe. So that's a testament to her greatness, her longevity, and that goes down with your legacy, right? Not only were you the best in Canada's soccer history, but you lasted the longest as well, right? Not a lot of people can say that, especially with the turnover in the Canadian soccer system. So shout out to Christine Sinclair, shout out to Adriana Leon, and shout out to everyone that's supporting each other. I mean, they're working for each other, and it seems like this team's a real family, and they gel together well.
Yeah, and I mean it's encouraging going into the World Cup as well, because I think Australia is another top 10 nation. So again, to get 2 good wins against them, they definitely weren't easy, but it looked, like I said, like it looks like they're starting to go away from, like, not go away from her, but there's way more options, there's way more threats. And that just like you said, allows her to find the game. She doesn't have to be the main center striker now. Every team's going to clue in on her, and now she's got to fight for everything. Whereas, who do you leave Janine Becky with a ton of time and space?
That's what I'm saying. So
like, you're right. Leave, like there's so many of them now that are playing at that. Jessie Fleming's another one. Adriana's another one. Like, there's so many now playing at that level that it's definitely more difficult, I think, for a lot of the other nations to kind of figure out who exactly to deal with in that attack. But again, like, I mean, I think it goes back to the other conversation of, how do we kind of bring more pathways into the women's game? I know we spoke about it last week a little bit. For me, I think the right starting point is kind of how we built the men's pathway, because we need more. Like, it's unequivocally we need more, especially at the younger levels. We definitely need more opportunities. But for me, I suggest going kind of like the MLS model, where I don't understand why the 3 MLS groups, who are all worth minimum $500 million, how they can't have a team in the NWSL and then flood it with Canadians.
Yeah, I think that especially like MLSC, we know how much money these guys have got with the Raptors, the Blue Jays, the Maple Leafs, and Toronto FC. So like, I think adding a women's team to put it into NWSL would be beneficial. It's not like Toronto's not a city where it's an attractive city. People would want to move there, would want to live there, whether American or Canadian. But I think following the TFC model, the MLS model would be beneficial to start somewhere. I think the most important thing is just to start and see how it goes, see how the influx of players, see how if people choose university over playing professionally right away, or seeing people go to university to develop a little bit and come back, because obviously you see our women's national team, a lot of them have played in the college ranks. Almost all of them played in the college ranks, but just giving a different option where college isn't the only pathway to get to where you want to go, right? Because you're still competing against the best American players as well when you go to college, where here you can play on a team that's Canadian for Canadians and potentially get the professional experience and make your own way to wherever you want to go. So yeah, I mean, the MLS model I think will work perfectly, but a lot of people are always talking about how do we get people to watch the women's game? And I think that's another thing that we need to focus on, because like we're talking about this off air, and I think a lot of people are comparing the Canadian game to the American game because obviously they're the closest to us. But we have to take into consideration we're like America, but we don't have that same amount of people as America. So when it comes to views and revenue and all that stuff, where you need to, in order to pay the women the money that they rightfully deserve, it depends on how much butts you can put in the stands.
How many people are willing to pay for it? How many people are going to buy jerseys, pay for tickets, pay for subscriptions?
And that's what I mean. I'm not saying Canada doesn't have a big population of people that actually enjoy football, whether women or men's, because you see them show up to the women's national team games when we have them at BMO Field, at in Vancouver,
yeah,
Rogers,
Place.
you know what I mean? BC Place, you know what I mean? So you have the support there, TD Place in Ottawa, but my thing is, it's like we have 38 million people in Canada. 38 million people. America has 350 million people. So even if everyone in Canada supported soccer, like nationwide, there's still going to be more people in America that support soccer than Canada, the country itself. So now the support for soccer in Canada right now, you have to split it between hockey. You have to split it between basketball, because the Toronto Raptors are good, because for some reason the Toronto Maple Leafs people still support them. That's
hey, they're gonna win. Start planning the parade. They're winning this year. I'm telling you.
Hey man, the Raptors, and then like, you know what I mean. So you have 38 million people you're trying to split us like 5 sports between 38 million people, and you're not gonna get the same reception. So I think people forget that.
Yeah. Oh, massively. I think that's one of those things, right? Like if you were to take every single Canadian in the country and say they committed $1 per year for an entire league, your budget would be 38 million, right? Like it's for an entire league. That's not a ton.
Yeah.
And again, like I think like the other thing, like you brought up population, which was, key, but also if you look at like the small towns in the US, they don't support these other sports because they support whatever their college sport, like their college sport. Yeah. That's why college football is so damn big. Those are all small towns. Like they don't support anything else. Like those things are specifically ingrained in the culture. And that's what we have here with hockey. Like these small towns in Saskatchewan, the Rough Ride, like the CFL team sells out all the time because that's all they have. So again, now you're if you look at this, you've kind of lost a massive province, which again is so spread out because we have 38 million people across the second largest country, largest land area country. Like, and we only have 38 million people. Like it's insane. So that's one of those things, and that's why I think the MLS model is the best way, because I think it can actually sustainably grow that way. where we can really start to drive home, like, yeah, these are the Canadian players. Here we go. Give them a proper platform, and then hopefully sell them on to bigger European clubs, because, you know, we want as many Canadians playing in the Champions League as possible, like with the men. Like that's kind of been the whole idea, is that we want, you know, we see today Alphonso Davies playing, Eustachio playing 90 minutes for Porto. Laren's on the bench for Bruges. Like, we have them in that area now, and we're getting excited about it. Most of those guys, except for Eustachio, Kyle and Fonzie, came through the MLS system. So did Tejan. He went through the NCAA. Kyle and Tejan went through the NCAA system and did that. So it's not that the NCAA is a bad one, because again, you are technically playing against the best U.S. women's youth national team players.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is great. But you have this additional pathway, and maybe college gives you that extra time to develop, so that when you step into the pro game, which now, hopefully now with 3 teams, there'd be more opportunities, that you're more ready. Like, you're just more ready. Like, that's part of it that I think's also really difficult, is looking at it. How many, we talk about this with the guys, how many senior, I guess, amateur women's footballers would be ready to supplement numbers in a full, say you do 7 teams like the CPL has for the men. Like, you can't, like, if you create a league and you fill it with 17, 18-year-olds, the standard's not going to be the same, because they're 17 and 18. They have so much to learn. So it's kind of that, it's kind of, you just wonder. And then again, how many people are going to, and then if you have these teams, like say TFC side, no, you know what, we're going to do NWSL. And then you have York. Who are people going to pay to go watch? Now you're directly in kind of competition with them without having really built a sustainable system. So I kind of look at it where we actually have sustainable infrastructure with the 3 MLS teams. That's where the pressure should be being applied. Massively. That's where the pressure should be being applied, going, you guys need to get on this. This is how we want to grow it. We want to see exactly, we can have proper projections, and let's see how we can grow this thing sustainably. And then ideally, one day we would have a professional women's league, 100%. But the last thing this country needs is to start it, and then for it to not work out the way we want.
100%. We've done that many times with the men's league. We've done that many times. Like the CSL, that was up folded like 3 times before the CPL, right? So I think, like, we're both saying the same thing. And like I said, it's like, we have to stop trying to compare ourselves to America. And like, obviously you want to compare yourself in football terms to these countries, but when it comes to infrastructure or revenue and all that stuff, you still have to take in a lot of other things that, like, we don't have control over. Where these other European teams, South American teams in the women's game, it's only football. Even if they don't like football, they still support football, because that's all they've ever known. Even if they don't like to play, they'll watch, because they've grown up watching. And that's the only thing. Like, there's no Brazilian hockey team. Like, you know what I mean? And if there is hockey teams in Europe, it's usually the Eastern European teams. And then, like, no one else is really competing with America and Canada. So these guys, just everything they know, they live and breathe football. So
you have to play the hand you're dealt.
That's what I'm saying.
We've been dealt a certain hand, and we have to play to the best of our ability. And I think, like, exactly. I love that point of going, okay, here are the variables we have to deal with. Let's find the best possible solution.
100%. So I think, we're on the same page with that. And to tail off of that, we go into the Canadian Summer Games, where a lot of the youth women and men's players are developing. And recently, the Canada Summer Games just happened for the women's side, and Ontario, shout out Ontario, first place. You already know the vibes. Surprising Nova Scotia in 3rd place. I won't even lie. I was surprised when we were talking about that. I won't even lie. They're doing good things on the far East Coast. I'm the East Coast, but that's the far East
Atlantic.
Coast. The Atlantic. Yeah. So I mean, no surprising that it's Ontario and Quebec, to be honest. But the one that surprised me the most is Nova Scotia, 3rd place, and BC in 5th. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah, buddy. It's, you know what? It's kind of interesting, because I kind of heard from someone that a couple of the BC players who were meant to go, that got asked to go, weren't released by their universities because they had started up at that point. So I don't know if that's a strategic side of it, because I know they did take even some younger Whitecaps Rex players, which is kind of great. Like if those players are ready, like it's a great opportunity for them to play against some older players. But if your idea was to supplement super young players with players who are off to college, the timing of it's just really difficult, because if you're like, I mean, we both went through going through preseason. Like if you had to go to UConn and say, hey, in the middle of preseason, I need to leave and go play in a youth tournament, they're not going to release.
With my coach, with Ray Reed?
There's no chance.
Not a chance.
There's no chance. I wouldn't have been released at SFU for that.
Yeah.
So it's one of those kind of interesting things. Like, would it have been a great experience? Absolutely. Would it have helped the BC team? Absolutely. And I don't know if this one, part of this is it got rescheduled because of COVID. So these are an opportunity for a player to get that now might be taken away, which sucks. But I think some additional planning kind of needs to take place. And again, like, where are the players who are getting ready to go now? Like, where were they? And so that's always one of the interesting things. And one of the things that I really love about this tournament, having gotten to watch a bunch of it, and for me being pretty familiar because of FT Canada with a lot of the Ontario and the Quebec players, these are players who aren't necessarily in the NDC camp.
Oh, really?
Not in the Rex camp. Some of them aren't. Some of them are. Some of them aren't. Some of them have been trialists. All these things. So it's really kind of cool to see a bunch of them play in this play together and do this thing, because this is the expanded player pool. We shouldn't expect the NDC to get every single selection right. Like, they're selecting a kid at 16, 17. We have no idea what they're going to be like 6 months from now, never mind a year or 5 years, if they're going to be a national team player.
That is true. Yeah, you bring up a good point.
So this is a phenomenal little tournament that should expand opportunities for players. You'd hope that more collegiate coaches are watching it to say, oh, this is another really good high level tournament that we can kind of watch and see, you know, we like these players. How do they play? What are their system? Now they're playing with a brand new coach with a whole bunch of different players, kind of similar to stepping into an NCAA or a U Sports team. Right. So I love it for that fact that this is something that we should be considered a really high level tournament. And this should bring a lot more attention to these players, because like you can't expect, you know, 3 subjective people, the Whitecaps, NDC Ontario and NDC Quebec, to bat 1,000. They're gonna be wrong more times than they're right, just because we can't predict how kids develop.
I mean, coming from experience, I played in Canadian Summer Games, and I don't know if they still do. We did it for like the provincial program way. So you would have the provincial program, you would have like a camp, a pre-camp before the Canada Summer Games, and the coach would, so you have like your 28-man provincial roster. And then like you would have a camp for like a week or a week and a half. And then the coach would cut like 7 players and bring 21 players to Canada Summer Games. I went a long time ago. Damn, let me see. I went in, was it 2009 or 10 in Newfoundland? Terrible place. But oh man, yeah, St. John's, Newfoundland. We actually lost to Quebec in the final. We were on the brink of getting eliminated. I remember I was playing against my team, and our team was good. Had guys like Jordan Hamilton was there, Michael Petrasso was there. I mean, we had Brandon John, like Luca Gaspard, but like these guys have been playing pro, and some of them, Gaspard obviously retired, but we were like one of the dominant teams. And then we went to Quebec, and then we lost in penalty shootouts. So I was like, damn, like, but it's a good experience. But back then you were playing to show your worth, I guess, to the U17 national coach, because that time they had NTC program. And I'm damn, I'm really showing my age.
Yeah, buddy, hey, same here,
NTC
pal.
program, bro. The NTC program. Yeah, so that's it was an amazing tournament. You've seen guys like develop from there, and guys that you went on to play against in the future. I remember Ali Musi was on the Manitoba team, I believe. He cooked our team one time. Yeah. It was him and Dylan Carrero. That's when, and then Dylan ended up going to the U17 national team after that too, as well. him and Petrasso. So yeah, it was a good experience. I'm happy that those ladies got to experience it. Shout out to Ontario one more time, you know what I mean? And hopefully they continue on like bringing in these youth, because obviously this is another tournament for them to prove their worth and to challenge themselves before they make their next step.
Yeah. Massively, right? And like you talked about, like look at the players you played against there. Like that should be almost a way for these players to get seen. Maybe NDC do look at it and go, you know what? Maybe let's invite her in. Like I'll never understand the concept of not wanting to see as many players as possible in your environment. Because again, I think there's probably a psychological component to where some kids are gonna get used to it really quickly, and others might take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So just because you see someone at one age and they go, okay, she's not good enough or he's not good enough, in a year's time, if you're watching them going, oh, they got better.
You know how many people that happened to?
Back in. Just invite them back in. Like you can invite them in for a week trial and see if maybe they just grew mentally and psychologically that year and they got more confident. Like I think we kind of undersell how much confidence really has to do with so much. And I know it's one of the biggest things that for me coaching now with, you know, kids who are 12 and kids who are 7, like trying to tell the parents, like I just want your kid to be confident and having fun. Like that's one of the biggest things. And if they're doing that, they're going to feel a lot better and they're going to actually mature a lot quicker, rather than constantly feeling like they're under pressure and not doing the right thing and doing all these other things. So it's a good tournament and I hope to see it around, and hopefully the timing's a little bit better for the next one so that we kind of stay away from the college season, which would be nice, because I think that then that just expands the player pool again for girls and boys to get seen. And then moving on, so much going on in the CPL right now.
Yeah, man, the CPL right now, I mean, I feel like the CPL, there's so much been going on since the COVID year. There's just a lot.
There's
a lot. Yeah. New announcements, new commissioner in the CPL, who was also the president of the CSB.
Yeah, he's the CEO of CSB.
CEO
so
of CSB.
Mark Noonan was announced as the new commissioner. You know what? I mean, the CSB have a pretty big deal to do with bringing the CPL, so I can kind of see why that would fit pretty well. There's some aligned values and probably some aligned collaborative ideas. You do worry about potentially there being some not bad things, but you just never know, right? Like, are we stacking the deck on one side on the board, which is something that's always interesting, right? But again, it's a young league and it needs to grow. And hopefully Mark can help. I know one thing for me, like one thing that's been frustrating the most is, at least what I found, is a significant lack of transparency with what exactly the rules are. Because as someone who wants to see the league grow, you kind of understand that you need a pretty big variety of players. Like you need older players. Like, I'm sorry, you do. You need older players within your team. You cannot have a team of 17, 18-year-olds, because if they get smashed every week, who cares how great they look on the ball? And if you're an older player and you're playing against 17-year-olds, what team at the next level is going to look and go, wow, he looked really good against that 17-year-old? Like that, it's not going to work. So I don't think that that's a way forward to actually build value for a league. I remember like Zach Scott was at the Sounders for like 20 years. The guy played in the US all the way through, and he stayed on, and they kept him on, and he didn't play a ton, barely made any money, but he brought that kind of veteran presence all the time, and he was there, and he added value. He added value to a young kid maybe playing against him, going, that's it's an MLS veteran. Look what the kid's doing. And so I've heard things where certain players have been denied potential opportunities from the league because of their age. One thing if it's an owner going, if it's an owner literally saying, no, I don't want to sign him, we have too many older players. If it's the league, like what other league does that happen to in the world? Can you imagine the FA telling Man United or Chelsea you can't sign someone because of their age?
Yeah, I mean, and it's as crazy as it sounds. I think that's what happens in a centralized league, a money cap league, because the FA is not the FA without Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal. Like, you take those guys when they're building the Super League, everybody was panicking. When all the big teams in England were like, you know what, we're not doing this no more. Everybody was panicking because these owners have their own money and willing to, you know what I mean? If they can get revenue a different way and they can play consistent quality games and they don't have to play those like Carabao Cups, then they're gonna do it. But I think obviously they came to agreement. But going back on what you said, take an opportunity from someone, especially if they're a Canadian for the CPL, that's not a good sign. Regardless of age, it could be 17, it could be 31, because you've seen literally the last year, the MVP went to someone who just turned 32, literally like a couple of days ago, Kyle Becker. So if he's the best player in the league, why does age matter? Right? If you're
also,
trying to
like,
set a
if
standard,
you're a young kid,
yeah,
and you want to get signed, you want to go, I want to beat Kyle. I want to play better. I want to play against him.
That's what I mean. I'm like, I've been on a lot of teams, and a veteran presence brings value to the locker room, not only on the field, but off the field. You're forced to grow up a lot quicker because there's a lot of things that older guys are just not going to take. They're not going to take shit from you. They're not taking the little nuances, like you being late, you running your mouth. You learn a sense of integrity, respectfulness, like just those little stuff. Like, you learn responsibility, you learn initiative. Like, there's just little things where you take like little nuances, little things from veteran players that have been doing it their whole life. Like, you might one day be like, you know what, I'm going to be the last one to come to training and then the first one to leave. And then a veteran player is like, yo, like, what are you doing? Or you see someone who is older than you and he's made, let's say, a lot of money or just been playing longer than you. You're like, you know what? I wonder what he's doing that's kept him in the game for so long. I might be better, more talented than him, but why is he playing over me even though I'm more talented than him? And I don't think the CPL right now is really looking at that. I think right now it's at a situation where it's like, okay, we lost millions of dollars from the COVID situation, just like any other league in the world. But because we were a startup league in our second year, we lost all that money. We're trying to find ways to cash in quickly to bring up the revenue. So we're trying to get the youngest players with the most experience, with the most attraction. And sometimes that can backfire because it's better to have a mix because you got to keep the league honest as well on the field.
And I mean, at the same time, like talking about that, like saying, oh, who's like the youngest player with the most experience? That literally goes against exactly what the league says its identity is, to expand the player pool. If you're only looking at young kids who have experience, who play for the national team, who have signed pro contracts, you literally are not expanding the pool whatsoever. You are maintaining it. That's literally the definition of maintaining it. So again, I think like the bit of nuance is obviously, again, post-COVID, how do you grow the league from a revenue standpoint? And the only way to do that is by a better product on the field. And so for me, I don't give a fuck how old the kid is. I don't give a shit. If a 16-year-old kid is the best product, put him on the field. I want to watch it. Like, I don't care. I don't. But if we now have like, we have under 21 minutes that are mandatory for every team, are we serious? Is it a development league or is it a professional league? Like, what are we doing?
I understand the concept, because obviously me playing in it, I understand the concept of the U21 minute rule, because they're trying to find a balance between, okay, where everyone's stuck on, and this is why there's a lot of European players, a lot of European teams looking at North America now and the North America player talent pool, because everyone wants to know where the next Alphonso Davies is. Because they're like, damn, how do we miss out on, or everyone wants to find where the next Tejan is, the next Kyle is. So they're like, wow, these guys actually have talent here. So we're like, hey, if we get these guys valuable first team minutes against Kwame Awua, against Kyle Becker, against Joel Waterman, or against, you know what I mean? Against those players, then these guys are going to develop. They might not be Alphonso Davies, but they're still going to have the experience and the talent to be refined and to be sold off, like Borges after the 2019 season, right? So I think they're just trying to find a balance where, like, okay, we can still make money off selling players, but we still can keep a good product on the field.
Yeah, and I don't.
I understand, but I think it should be more a league for like boosting Canadians, whether they're under 21 or whether they're over 21. You play the best players. That's what it is.
If they're good enough, they're old enough.
That's what I'm
Plain
saying.
and simple. Like that's the thing that bothers me the most about this is that, and again, from what I've heard, it's one thing if it comes from an owner, guy whose money's on the line, no problem. It's coming from the fucking league, man. That is so poor from a league saying, yeah, we're gonna deny you trying to make the best team you can. That's cap compliant. That fits all these other rules.
I was gonna say the one thing, and I only know obviously from my experience from Forge. So for Forge, like we didn't play that many U21s. Like we had Borges, but like because he was a good player, he played. So he was soaking up all the U21 minutes. You know what I mean? So like he filled the thing by himself. So like we weren't necessarily like aiming, okay, U21, because we were still trying to put the best product on the field. And you could still sell players at 22, 23, 24. Like it's not, but I understand the concept, but it shouldn't be so rigid where like you deny someone an opportunity just because they're not a certain age.
Yeah, and I think the bigger issue that I think I have with it is the fact that it seems like it's a rule that is trying to create more equity across the league and more parity. When you're like, so you're literally going to punish a team for constructing a better roster, for attracting better players because no one wants to go play in this other area. Like that's what it sounds like. And again, from like a league's perspective, I can kind of understand it, but from a growth perspective, that makes no sense. It makes none. Put the best product on the field. People will pay for a better product.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, going back to that, like, do you believe, obviously, we were talking about recently the universities. Is there any Canadians that are currently in university that you think can step into the CPL or the pro game in general? Like we were talking about the youth sports top 10. And what's his name on FIU?
Stefan Afrifa. Yeah, against UNC.
FIU against UNC. That's big time. I mean, UNC is a really coveted school. Everybody knows them. Tar Heels, couple national championships. So I mean, I think there's
quite a few. I think there's quite a few, man. Like I think, like I mean, even look at your guys, Kyle Hybert.
Yep.
NCAA player last year, stepping in, and he's quality. Like I think there's a lot of them. Again, I think it's up to these clubs to actually scout. And again, this is where part of the growth comes in from a business standpoint. Is the clubs need to actually invest money into scouting rather than rely. And again, part of it is CSB and CPL have said, "Oh, we're going to help with it. We'll help supplement it. No problem. That's great. They're going to invest money in it. Awesome." But the clubs can't be giving someone 6 different hats and go be a scout, go be a coach, go be an HR person. Like you're just not going to be able. There's not enough hours in the day to do all of those jobs properly. So again, we're kind of, I think, like hopefully the league in the next couple of years can kind of take that step where you're investing money in the club to help scale it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like you kind of need to have a scout who is traveling to tournaments, who is watching the NCAA. Like the Pac-12 is a good league to go watch with Stanford and UCLA and
that's a good division, good conference.
It's a great conference. It's a Power 5, and then even in the WAC with CLU, Levante Johnson had an unbelievable year last year. Like there's so many Canadians down south who might not be necessarily at a Power 5. That shouldn't matter if they're performing in those leagues.
If you're good, you're good.
That's what I always say. Who cares?
That's what I always say.
You know, potentially some of these other ones they didn't have like we had this conversation. We had this conversation the other day actually, where it was like, how many Canadians do you think are good enough for the NCAA? And we were talking about it, and I said, for a given grad year, I'd say maximum 150 go down. Maximum 150 Canadian players total for a grad class. That has nothing to do with how many are actually good enough. That has to do with A, how many of them are going to get the scholarship they need. B, those who are going to, again, within scholarship they need. They might not be going to a team that's that great, but they're the ones who can afford a scholarship. They might be way, the amount of that can go play Power 5 are probably way higher than that. But They have to spread out the money
Opportunity.
against everyone. Opportunity. It might be just number of positions. And then there's also those who can't afford to go to school down in the States. So there's all these different variables that kind of come in. And that's why I'm kind of happy with the CPL aligning with U Sports. I don't love the idea of a draft where you can redraft the same player for 5 years.
Yeah.
Because again, that's maintaining a player pool. Like, it's one thing to say like, oh, we drafted this guy, we signed him to a developmental contract. He can go back and go to school. No problem. That kid shouldn't be eligible to be drafted next year. He just got this chance to play. If other teams want to sign him, that's what should kind of happen. Because we're seeing a kind of a big rotation with the top 10. Like, I'll pull it up right now. But within those top 10s, like on the girls' side, a lot of Western schools. So UBC #1, not a big surprise. They're very, very good. Ottawa GGs are #2. Wow. Trinity Western #3. Laval are #4. Montreal Carabins #5. Queens are #6. Calgary is #7. McEwen from Alberta is #8. Acadia from the Atlantic are #9.
Damn.
The Pissings #10. Like, there's so, like, York's not in there. Like, there's a lot of turnover kind of happening where you're kind of seeing like these different programs kind of come up. And then on the men's side, you've got Cape Breton #1.
Okay.
Great program. York #2, Carleton #3, Montreal Carabins #4, Laval #5, Guelph #6, Mount Royal from Alberta #7, Toronto Metropolitan University, which was formerly Ryerson #8.
I forgot they changed their name.
I know, so did I. UQTR #9, and then Ontario Tech #10. Like, there's no UBC. There's no UBC. There's no, like, teams that we probably grew up with, like teams that we grew up with who were the top might not be the top anymore. So, and that comes down to better scouting by the schools, them attracting these new players and stuff. So you'd hope that, the more of these players who are in these systems would get chances. And same thing on the girls' side too. Like, I really don't understand how just because a girl decides to play at UBC, she doesn't get as big of a chance with say the under-20s or the U23s as a girl who decided to go play in a mid-major conference in the US. I don't personally get that. I really don't.
I think you should literally just look at talent. Like, you can scout players literally individually. Like, you can tell how they control the ball, how they run with the ball. Like, you know what I mean? There's certain things in the game where it's like, okay, this person's different. Like, if you put them around a certain type of player, then it's okay, maybe they develop this way. Maybe it's like, okay, might not be playing the same competition, but the little nuances and feel for the game, positional. You can literally just look how they position themselves on the field, and you can tell they think a lot differently. They think about the game a lot differently. And that's what technique that's what can change the outside. It's okay, this person is in NCAA and this person's in U Sports. Like, no, like that's just a mask. Like, literally get down to the actual game. But
they're playing at the next level. Like, they are playing at the next level. Like, let's take our opportunity to actually watch them and genuinely scout. Like, that's one of those things that frustrates me. But
but to bounce, wait, hold on. I got one more thing. Sorry. To bounce back to the CPL, we do need to talk about the top 4.
Yeah.
We do need to talk about the top 4. The race is top 5. The race is crazy right now. We got Calvary in first, or no, Ottawa in first. So 40. Atletico, Ottawa in first, Calgary in second, Forge third, Valor fourth, Pacific fifth.
Valor made a huge push.
Valor, Forge, and Pacific separated by 1 point from the third place spot.
Yeah.
Damn, 3 points from the second place spot. And there's about 5-6 games left. You know me, I'm cheering for my boys in orange, but they have had 1 point in the last 5 games. So they need to get their shooting boots on. They need to get their grafting boots on and get back to what they should be doing best. And I already know you probably West Coast, so East Coast versus West Coast.
You know what? It's funny. I think if I had to pick one, because I think if I had to pick one team, honestly, to miss the playoffs this year, this is super bold, but it's just what they're running. I think Cavalry miss out. I think Valor stay in. I think Calvary miss out
Yo.
because they play Atleti next. Again, they could go on a tear here and then they win the league. Like it's one or the other, really. But they play Atleti, they play Forge, they play Pacific, and they play Valor. They play all 4 of them. They've got the toughest run in.
Are they home or away? That's
I'm not sure.
That's a great question. That's a great. I know Forge recently played Calgary 2 times back to back away, so I would think they're playing Forge at home. They actually are playing Forge at home, but that's a tough schedule. Obviously, being part of that, I know Forge had a tough time at IG
Valor are on a tear right now too.
Yeah.
Valor's probably the one you don't want to run into because they're confident, they're feeling good about themselves. They fight,
especially at their home. IG Field. You got to put your grafting boots on there. Workhorse. You got to be a workhorse in that field.
You know what? I think they are at home for pretty much all of these.
Calgary?
Yeah.
Hey, you might want to take back.
It's not looking as good. That's not looking as good.
You gotta, what? You might want to take back.
That's not looking as good. But that's the thing, man. I you know what? I said it. I'm going to stand by it. I'm going to make a really bold prediction because I think Valor will actually stay in, man. I really do. Okay. I think Valor stay in. Pacific, Aparicio coming back from suspension.
I say Pacific don't make it, but hey.
No, like that's the thing. They've gone through stretches this year too, where they've been at the highest of highs and then they've just fallen off the map. And they're kind of in that little bit right now.
I think that their first experience with CONCACAF, they're like, damn. Now I can have a conversation with those guys and be like, see, it wasn't easy us doing that run in CONCACAF and then coming to play y'all in the final. I'm not saying it's an excuse. Y'all beat us fair and square, but we had to travel to Honduras, Panama, Costa Rica, El Salvador for weeks on end and then come back in a shortened season to play y'all in the final. Good Pacific team. So, hey, now y'all are feeling it. Y'all did the travel to Jamaica and then the travel to Costa Rica. Yeah, it's not the same when you have to come back off a plane and then play it a day and a half later. It's not the same. We're flying coach, too. We're flying coach now. It's not private. We're flying coach with layovers. It's a struggle flight. Nah, they know. No doubt. Shout out to them though. They put in a fighting effort in the CONCACAF League.
Buddy,
you appreciate
awesome.
that. Yeah,
no,
they did
honestly,
awesome.
It reminded me of what you guys did as well. Down 1-0, down a man. You're like, it's done, and then they fight and they claw back, and you're like, holy hell! I think it's putting I think a lot of other leagues in CONCACAF on notice. I really do. I really do.
I'm telling you, like, when we were in CONCACAF last year, and we can move on from this, but when we were in CONCACAF last year, like these teams used to go to these press conferences and be like, nah, we're not playing with Forge. Like, we're actually going to try. Like, because teams in the first time we played, they weren't really trying. Like when we played Olympia, we got slapped when we went down to Honduras first year, 2019. But in 2020, when they saw us beat Taro, teams were like, hold on. This is a team that beat Dallas a year and a half ago, FC Dallas, in the Champions League. And this Forge team is only 2 years old. How they do? Okay. Came to 2021 and they seen us beat Independiente with a man down. 70 minutes with a man down. They're like, nah, hold on. Like teams weren't playing. And then we came back come back against the 3-0 against the Costa Rican team. They were like, nah, these guys ain't playing. The Santos team. It put everybody on notice. So now everybody, when they see CPL and then Pacific beat us, they're like, nah, these guys beat these guys. All right, then we gotta take this. We gotta take this shit seriously. So it's good though. Putting eyes on the league.
Yeah, massively, right? Like again, that's the most important thing. Trying to grow this thing. And then moving on, biggest story for us up here north of the border in MLS was TFC versus Montreal.
4-1 derby. That's a
Canadian Classique.
Yeah.
What a game.
What a start for TFC.
Couldn't have asked for a better start.
I was like, this is about to be a blowout. Holy smokes.
And then you couldn't have asked for a better response from Montreal.
Hey man, I was watching that game and I was like, this can't be real. Like the penalty, was it a penalty? They got a penalty, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
They got a penalty.
Bernadeschi.
I was like, okay, penalty, whatever. And then the finish from Insigne, I was like, wait, already 10 minutes in? Okay, it's a long game for Montreal. And then you just gradually see Montreal build into the game. Possession, knocking it, outrunning, outworking TFC. They get one back.
Kamal.
And then Kamal.
Yeah, Kamal scores.
At all people, score, yeah. At all people, Kamal. And then that just brings life into them. And then we get Georgie.
Yeah, Mihailovic.
With a rocket. And it's like game on. At that point, I was like, okay, it's both two teams getting like two haymakers. Like, all right, we both got our haymakers out. Now it's like so I'm like, okay, it's fair enough. Like TFC started hot, then Montreal got hot. Okay, maybe he's just gonna chill. And then the goal at the end of the half.
Some of the worst defending I've ever seen in my life.
I was like, damn.
But hey, our boy got an assist, so that's all we care about.
Man. I said, damn, like it's like that. Cause I went downstairs to I went downstairs to go get some food. Came back upstairs. I was like, 3-2. I'm seeing my phone. My homies are like, yo, 3-2. I'm like, wait, nah, this can't be real. I run back inside. I see the goal. I'm like, no. And on top of it, Mavinga got subbed out at half. I seen a post from him saying that he was going through a lot of things with his family and he's still trying to get through everything. So prayers up to him.
For sure. And you just wonder if he might have been struggling with something because he's normally more solid than that. Like that seems so strange. Like the angle he took, the speed at which he did it. Like nothing about it quite seemed right. So you never know if he had some sort of a knock and that's why he got taken off at half. They're like, just survive till the end of the half. You just wonder if he's going, there's only a couple minutes left to survive, and then that happens.
Yeah. So I mean, big pieces missing for Toronto FC. Jonathan Osorio and Mark Anthony obviously got subbed in at half as well. He's coming back from injury, so that's obviously tough to deal with. TFC don't really have their number 9 scoring goals, Jesus Jimenez and Ayo. I read an article today by Waking the Red saying that they have scored 1 goal in the last 2 months between both of them. So that's obviously tough with Bernadeschi and Insigne coming to the team. TFC has become more of a wing play team, you would say, and depending on those two players. So it's obviously tough for them. And then Osorio and Mark Anthony being out, the creativity where those guys would be able to get in goal scoring positions is not there as often. But yes, it's just a tough situation to be in as a number 9 because like you depend on goals for your confidence, right? When Jimenez scored last week, he finally got his goal. He was hella excited, like damn, like he got the monkey off his back. So hopefully TFC can get all their players healthy. And Montreal though, they're looking honest.
Yeah, and then Alistair gets the 4th one too. So like Canadian wise, you got Kamal and Alistair both scored. Joel with an assist, which is awesome. And so like from the Canadian perspective,
James Pantemis starting in that.
Yeah, you had Jaden Nelson, Noble Okello who played. Like for me personally, I looked at it, I was like, it was great to see the Canadian contingent. Like each team had at least 5, I think, on the pitch to start with, which is awesome. Like that's kind of what I'm sorry, but that's kind of what you got to do when you're up. Again, you talk about playing the hand you're dealt. Like I get that TFC can go and buy Bernadeschi and Insigne. Like that's awesome, great. That adds so much to the team. But just to see the Canadian contingent amongst them, that's encouraging. You know what I mean? And as far as Akinol and Jimenez are concerned, like that's also got to be difficult. Whereas before, the one thing I've always been impressed with Akinola is his movement in behind. It's unbelievable, man. But that needs to happen so fast. That has to be your first option. Whereas you're now the 3rd behind Bernadeschi, just giving the ball to Bernadeschi or Insigne. So now that movement in behind right away might not necessarily be on people's radar. So now the best way he creates chances is now gone. Even though you're like, well, look at the service you now have from those guys. Well, now it's about trying to figure out that next part for him because he's still such a young kid, man.
100%.
He's now got to figure out this movement, getting off of center backs to create space to try and get on the end of something, which isn't a strong suit right now, but it's something that I would hope that he could learn.
Yeah, I think him obviously signing that new deal with TFC, he probably feels a lot of pressure, and I was my boy, so I'll tell him I was like, don't don't worry about that. Like, just literally play your game. I think it's just tough because you come Insigne and Bernadeschi are 1v1 wingers. They're trying to take you on and score. So like you are like essentially fighting for scraps. You know what I mean? So like they're gonna cut in and shoot every time long range shots, and they have like the most leading goals from long range shots, I think, with 10. But it became more of a wing play team. So you have to find ways to involve yourself in the game. And Ayo does that. He does a good job holding up the ball. Does a good job just making dummy runs for these players. You know what I mean? Even if he doesn't get the ball. Jimenez benefited more earlier in the season when they were playing down the middle, right? So like Osorio, 5 of his assists came from Jimenez scoring goals earlier in the year. So that's where he was benefiting from, like short passes, slip balls in behind. So I think they just need to find a way where they can gel both. I think Osorio coming back and Mark Anthony coming back is gonna benefit both of them a lot better. But we can talk about Montreal. Montreal was knocking the rock. Because I felt like at one point TFC gave up. Montreal was knocking the rock, moving the ball. Guys like Sammy Piet doing their consistency. Wanyama, him and Wanyama look like a solid core. The back three solid. All young players. Well, Camacho as a veteran in the middle, great on the ball. Georgi Mihalovic, you already know, he got sold recently in January to AZ Alkmaar. And is going to spend the rest of his time in Montreal to end this season. But like, just look at that. And then Ishmael Kone coming on, putting his stamp in the game. Alistair, another solid performance, consistent defensively, offensively. It's just, I feel like they're just a well-oiled machine right now.
Schwanier started at left wing back again. Yeah. Like, and
that's
then it helps.
It's like a well-oiled machine.
Kyoto has been a beast this year. Holy hell. And you're kind of looking at him like, how has he not always done that? Like, he's always been like that. It just seems like he's really found his feet this year. But no, man, they are, like I said, they're probably the team I watch the most in MLS, to be honest with you. Part of it is obviously my connection with Joel, being a BC kid and knowing him for so long. Definitely that helps. But also, I've always found that, they've always been the ones who've kind of played the most Canadians pretty consistently. TFC this year really only did it out of necessity, if we're being honest. Like at the start of the year, Bradley had next to no one, and he's like, it's going to be a project. The Whitecaps just reluctantly choose not to, essentially. So with Montreal, it's been like that was the easy one for me to try and watch as much as possible. But I think the biggest thing with them, and this is why they're doing so well in MLS. There's an identity. They have an identity of how they want to play. And yes, they have a B and they have identities A plan, but within their B and C plan, you still see their identity. And that is so, so, so important. And so it's not a surprise that we're down 2-0. They've got Bernadeschi and Insigne. No problem. Keep doing what we're doing. And then they claw their way back in, and you look at their acquisitions, man, like Georgi Mihalovic is a phenomenal player. He's one of those U20 teams. He was with Chris Richards, where all their Tim Weah, all those guys. He stays in MLS, continues to develop, comes up here, and they're now like, holy, even the US national team going, oh my God, we got to look at him. And now he's off to, it's awesome. He found his move to Europe now. So it just like from everything, from a whole perspective, like they understand how they want to play. They bought and brought in and signed players who fit their mold. Not just a mold, and you're seeing the results. And also, let's 100%. Be honest, part of it has to do with coaching. And I know we go into that a little bit in our interview after this. But
Montreal definitely look like a contender, and I enjoy watching them play as well. I mean, I got to play against them last year as well in the Canadian Championship, and it was a big battle, and we enjoyed it. 11 penalty shots that we went into, but nah, man. The game, it felt like the Canadian Classic, or Classique, as they would say, was back. You know what I mean? Like in 2016, when Piatti and Drogba and all those guys are there, we remember how wild it was. The high-scoring games, action-packed, and then it kind of tailed off a little bit. So it's nice to see that, like, the competitive nature is there, and competitive nature between even players and friends on the same team. You see Richie and Kamal pushing each other, like, you know what I mean? Like, just little things, little things like that. Like, just on the field is war. After the game, it's all love. But I mean, you enjoy seeing little things like that. So yeah, 100%. Like, obviously, with our interview, I'm sure we're gonna get into it. Honestly, one of the best interviews we've had.
Buddy, he's awesome. I'm lucky enough. I've known Joel for a long time. So he was one of the ones who I was one of the first people that I wanted to call and do this with, and get him on here and just have a conversation. Like, that was one of the nice things, is it was just like a free flowing conversation. Nothing was prepared, just chopping it up. And he's such a good guy. He's one of the best guys I know, and I'm so incredibly happy for him with how his career's gone so far, and how he's continued, the trajectories continue to increase, because it couldn't happen to not just a better guy, but like one of those people that you're like, yeah, you can see why he's getting there. Like, he's so in tune with what he does, and he's so committed that you're just happy that it's working out for him, because you're like, yeah, you deserve it.
100%. But now you're going to give him a proper introduction, or what?
Of course I am. So the guy we have interviewed after this is center back for CF Montreal, is Joel Waterman, who spent most of his time on the West Coast, most of his time in BC. He was at Cavalry right before, and played collegiately at Trinity Western University. And in youth, he played for Surrey United, Langley, and Aldergrove. So West Coast boy through and through, and just hopefully he's getting used to the cold by now. That's what I hope. All right, today's guest on TopBinTalks grew up in Aldergrove, British Columbia. He played his youth career at Surrey United Soccer Club before moving on to Trinity Western. He was grafting in the PDL for a couple of years, going all over the Pacific Northwest, before signing with Cavalry in the CPL, and then making his big move up to CF Montreal. Pleasure for me to be able to call this guy friend. Someone I've known, oh my God, maybe a decade and a half at this point.
Oh, yeah. It's been a minute.
JJ, welcome to the podcast, buddy. How's it going?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. How are you guys?
Well, good, man. Nice to see you again, man. See you killing it.
Last time I saw you was obviously Canadian Championship, but before that, you took a trophy out of my hands, bro.
Yeah, you had a red
quite
card,
literally out of your hands.
Bro, I took it out of myself, my own hands, bro. Getting that red card. Oh my. We can talk about that, though. We can talk about that.
All right, Joel, let's start off right away, man. Because I see you on social media always going back to Aldergrove and Langley and stuff, and just kind of take us through, like, what growing up, like, whereabouts did you play when you were young, and then kind of going through the ranks?
Yeah, so I moved to Aldergrove when I was about 2 years old from Surrey. Played there from like U5 to U11. My mom and dad were actually my first two coaches when I was like 5 and 6. So like, we were a soccer family. I was always at the pitch. Had a soccer ball in my hands at school. It was something that kind of just got me out of trouble. I was an energetic kid, so just loved playing it wherever I went. So yeah, I played Aldergrove youth soccer from U5 to U11. The club ended up being kind of small. It's just not a big club in that area, so I had to move on because I was just getting better and better. So I went to Langley United from U12 to U14, and then I went to Surrey United after that. Again, Langley got too small. It just wasn't that much of a developed club at that age, and I was just, again, getting better and, you know, wanted to play with more skilled players. So went to Surrey United from U15 to U18. We had a really good team at that age, and after that, I wasn't really sure, you know, what my next step was going to be. I had a trial with the Whitecaps actually for about a couple of weeks when I was 18, when I was kind of, you know, blossoming into, you know, a better player year by year, getting bigger, growing into my body, those types of things. Didn't end up making it, which, looking back at it now, which was like the best thing that could have ever happened in my career. Not because I don't like the Whitecaps, it's just I wasn't ready at that time. But that was a time when like Sam Adekubi was a part of the Whitecaps, Marco Bustos, like just crazy talented guys that you know are playing professionally now. But yeah, for me it was really good because then I, you know, decided to stay home to go to school. I thought, you know, a plan B was, you know, a smart thing to do, whether, you know, football worked out or not. So went to Trinity Western University, got my degree. After 5 years there, I was playing in the PDL. Like you mentioned before, I played with TSS Rovers for 1 year, the Kitsap Pumas, which was actually the year.
That's the one I remember, buddy. When
The
that was
Kids
my
at
first year
Pumas
with
was actually
Sounders.
like the last place I wanted to go because the town, bro, it was like a military town with like families and old people, like no girls at that, like, bro, I could only focus on football, which is like the best probably for me at that time. But that year was my best year when I was about 20 years old. That was the year I really grew and blossomed into something like a professional. I knew, okay, this could actually be a possibility for me. So that was a great move for me. And then I went to Calgary Foothills. I wanted to win a PDL championship, and I thought that would be the best place to go, and end up, God willing, it happened. So, after that, Tommy Wheeldon took basically 12 of our guys from that team and moved us on to professionally when the CPL came around. And yeah, man, played 1 year with Cavalry FC. We had a really, really good, season there. Like I said, didn't get the cherry on top because of some guys in this chat, but
sir.
Amazing experience. Thought I had a good season, and obviously Montreal did too. So they came calling in that off season in December, and the papers were signed in January, and I was a Montreal player in 2020 and been here ever since. So last 3 years have been definitely a learning process, but it's all been a blessing for sure.
Jeez, yeah, man, that sounds like a real story, and that's what we're kind of trying to bring to the light. Like me and Adam, we're trying to talk to guys that haven't had the most direct journey. Like a lot of us and a lot of the guys on the national team, as you know, haven't had the direct journey. We had to go through the school route and everything. So, I mean, yours sounds like you went from literally like point A to point A1, A2, A3, and then it's like, all right, and B. Yeah. So you really had your working boots on. You're like, you know what? Let me just focus on myself. So from what I hear, you weren't always a central defender.
No.
I mean, I see your playing style. You're good with the ball. You can play out the back and everything. So that totally makes sense. That makes sense to me. But for people out there, like, explain how you became a central defender. I heard you play it up front, then you went gradually, just came down the field.
Knew I couldn't score goals, so they kept pushing me backwards. But I was basically a 6 or an 8 my whole life. A central midfielder growing up all throughout my youth, through at Trinity, PDL, and then it was actually when I got to Foothills, Tommy Wheeldon Jr. made the decision just because I got taller, I guess. The style of play I had fit more of a center back, and he pushed me back to center back and tried me out there for a couple games, and it ended up working. And then I was there basically the whole season. So, I guess as I grew up and got older, I just kind of, harnessed those skills of a central defender more. And then he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at that time, and put me back there, and ended up working out, perfectly. I'd never in my wildest dreams I ever think I'd be playing center back at this level, let alone a midfielder. But it seems to be working out, really well, and I've grown into that role. A lot of things I had to learn, because especially on the defensive side of the ball, because I just never, as a 6, you have to defend a little bit, but you always have your center backs and the back four to bail you out.
The last line of defense.
You never have to worry about what's behind you, right? So for me, it was cleaning up a lot of things on the defensive side of the ball, which I've cleaned up in my last 3 years here. Obviously, still, you never stop, learning. But that's how I kind of got there. It was basically, I owe it all to Tommy Wheeldon on that decision.
Okay.
Yeah, buddy. And just kind of jumping back into a little bit of the youth stuff. So you left at U15, you went to Surrey United. You had 1 year, I guess, technically, when it was like the Metro League before you jumped into BCSPL, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So just like because again, this is across Canada. What was the biggest difference that you saw once you guys jumped into BCSPL compared to like the old Metro League?
I think a lot of it was the same players. I just think at that time they obviously put a lot more money in the BCSPL. They made it. They kind of cut around the edges in terms of like they cut certain players that might have not been at that level. And then it just kind of grew from there. Like it was the best kids, all across the country playing in that league, right? So it really prepared me for, I would say, the next level, but you just got to play with the best kids. And we were, thankfully one of the best teams too. So a lot of, growing pains on the team I had for sure. And I'm sure teams all across the league, but for us, it was just, getting to play with the best kids in the country. And that's how you get to that next level, in my opinion. You got to play with the best and challenge yourself and make sure that, you're on one of those kids on the team, and just make sure that you can just keep getting better, right?
Yeah, I mean, your guys' age, it was filthy too.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of during BC's kind of peak there. It's too bad that we didn't have kind of a national thing like we have now, which would be a little bit nicer. Because I even heard there might have been some movement. I heard there's a rumor back in the day. Someone might have been switching to the light side, as I'll call it.
Yeah.
Forward.
I mean, those are the types of decisions you have to make, right? Like, I did it all throughout my youth. You have to move clubs, right? Like, unfortunately, you can't play with your best friends your whole life because you might have a different vision and they might not be as good and they might not want to play at the next level. And that's totally fine if they don't want to play professionally. But I had to make moves that, were for the best for myself and me going forward. And you make new friends, you make new connections, and you make new relationships with coaches. And I can't even count how many people I know on different teams that I've, seen over the years because I've been to different clubs. And, at that point, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And obviously I knew Metro Ford was an unreal team as well. So there's a one point in time where I almost put on a blue shirt instead of a red one at that time. But I think, both teams would have been amazing to play on, but I stuck with Surrey and it seemed to work out.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, later that year you were playing men's football. Like I remember that because that was right around the time when I was kind of full-time at that time with them at 17, 18. And you could see it right away. Like it's not a surprise when you step in, even playing CPL or PDL, especially with that Kitsap Pumas team, man. That was a men's team.
Yeah.
That was a men's team. You guys went and played San Antonio in the USL and lost an extra time, like in the Lamar Open Cup. Like it's a men's team. And if you're not used to playing with men, good luck to you stepping into those kind of environments, right? So no, buddy, I think it's tough to say you made a wrong decision.
To
be honest with you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Exactly.
I was gonna ask, so like obviously you grew up in the West Coast and I'm from the East Coast. I don't really know much about the developmental side on the West Coast. Would you say that your movement in teams and obviously playing with better players has helped you more develop more in your game rather than the actual coaching side? Because a lot of people complain about the coaching development within Canada, and like in the recent years, probably the last decade, has gotten a lot better. But back in the day, I can remember myself, coaches only cared about winning, or the coach used to be someone's dad, or you know what I mean? It was just like someone's just doing it part-time. Like, do you put more emphasis on your development based on who you played with and against, or the coaches, especially in your youth career?
That's a really good question. I think it's both. I think you have a really good point in saying, sometimes the coaches were just dads filling in, or, coaches you may not have liked. And at that point, the development is so hard because you get such a different array of kids that, especially in Canada too, you don't get kids saying at, 13, 14, I want to play professional football, and especially before the CPL came around, we didn't really have an avenue, right? So, for a kid to say at 12, 13 and start playing, BC provincial team and I don't know how early the Whitecaps goes now, but it's just kind of a foreign language for a lot of guys, and they're not fully equipped to get kids there because they have other kids to worry about that don't necessarily want to play professionally, and they're just there to have fun and compete and win games, right? So you get a different array of kids. So I think it's difficult. I think anyone that uses a coach's excuse is kind of, in my opinion, doesn't really want it as bad. Like, I just think you have to acknowledge, and it's hard at that age, you're still so young, but you have to acknowledge, like, okay, where's the best place for me to get to the next level and to succeed, right? And, for me, I knew Surrey was a bigger club, a better club, more resources, more kids, higher level. And those are the hard decisions you have to make. My parents had to drive me 45, 50 minutes of training every night, or every, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then, games on Saturday, right? So there's so many sacrifices and so many people that are a part of your journey that people have to make. But, I do hope that we can continue to develop high level coaches for kids that do want to do that. And, that's why you see the BCSPL coming around and different leagues and higher profiles where kids can go and say, okay, now I see an avenue with the Canadian Premier League. I see, all these guys making it. And, like myself going from point A, A1, A2, like you said, I want to be able to do that. So where can I go? And, the coaching has to be at least subpar for people to get there, right? So it's just all about systems being put in place where you have capable Canadian coaches or other people coming from the country, doesn't have to be Canadian, but coaches that are well equipped to coach those types of kids and get the best out of the kids. But it's also the kids' decision to, and their choice to say, okay, even if I don't have the right coach or whatever, I'm still going to play with the best kids. You can still get so much out of that, just playing with good players and learning. And then it's about, I'm sure you guys are the same way. You watch Premier League games, you go to games, you watch better players. I've been to so many Whitecaps games. Like you just take little nuances of the players, and there's other ways just to learn other than, relying just on one coach to get you to that next level, right? So I think it's a bunch of things all encompassing. It's a difficult question because, like I said, because kids are in just at different areas of their careers. Some kids might want it. That's why university was so hard, because some kids just were there for 5 years.
Tell me about it.
The worst.
They're gonna be we definitely know about it,
bro. They're
we
gonna be
definitely all know about
they're gonna be a doctor. They're gonna be whatever, and it's like, nah, bro. Like, I'm trying to make it to the next level. You better get on the same page and let's go try and win something. Like, because you're part of this too, and like you're helping me get there, right? So it's difficult, man. It's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of touched on something that's I look at as the biggest thing, especially being now coaching a lot in the youth systems over here. And I don't know so much what it is like in the East Coast, but it seems like the latest generation aren't as much of a student of the game as we were, not even close. And maybe that's because it was way more available to us. Like, you just go on, you turn on Sportsnet every single Saturday, Sunday morning, it's there. You don't have to get dads and you gotta get Fubo, like, just to be able to get all of the games now. It's way more segregated. But I just don't find that people actually watch it to say, they go, I just want to see Ronaldo and Messi score something and Neymar and Mbappe and just do something ridiculous rather than actually watch. Like, Joel, like, who is a player that you would say that you modeled your game after? Kwame, you can go next and then I'll go third or something.
That's fine.
Now, I would say I love John Stones. I just think he's amazing, obviously.
That's a good fit, to be fair.
He's amazing with the ball. Like I said to you before we even started this, I don't like doing similarities, and it's like, oh, Joel says like John Stones. Like, no. Like, he's at an obviously different level for a reason. But I would say, I obviously love, Virgil. I love Ramos. I love those types of guys. But like body type wise, skill wise, I think I'm a lot more like John Stones in terms of like, how he plays the game, right? But like I said, I like to take things, and I'm sure you guys do too, from different players. I had to learn on the defensive side to focus more on my positioning and to get that kind of bite in my game. And I watched just Ramos clips of him, stepping on guys and sliding guys. And like, that's
I haven't seen that come out yet.
Yeah, bro. Like, I'm trying. But like, even now, like, you got to get in a different mind space as a center back, because it's like, you're the big, tough, scary guys on the pitch, bro. And you got to get in that mindset somehow. Like, I'm not that type of person, right? I'm not that type of person to go out and be like, I'm going to kill that guy. Like, I'm just, I grew up as a midfielder, bro. If someone touches me, I would dive. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a different mindset. So, I look at different players, obviously, for different things. But overall encompassing, I would say John Stones.
Yeah, man, that's actually crazy, because like, obviously when you play different positions, you grow up watching one person, then you change position, and I'm like, hey, maybe I'll watch this guy, because you're trying to get, like you said, the little nuances. Like, you look at the best of the best. So obviously growing up, I was like, okay, I was a winger, midfielder, and in college I was a winger and a midfielder. So like in college, I used to watch like different types of wingers, like, you know what I mean, whoever I was feeling that day, you know what I mean? I was like, all right, whatever. But like, I think when I started playing left back, and I started playing left back at Forge, I used to play 8 at NYCFC. I mean, Patrick Vieira's telling me I'm a midfielder, then I'm a midfielder. I'm not telling one of the best midfielders of all time that like, I'm not that. If you're telling me I'm a box, all right, then I guess that I'm it. But like, when I went to Forge, I used to look like David Alaba when he used to play left back at Bayern, or Marcelo when he played. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, those guys, like, because I wasn't really a defensive left back. And like you said, I had to learn the defensive side as well. So my next question, after Adam says his who he likes to look at, my next question was going to be like, you have everyone that you look at. It's like, what is what do you think makes you? Like, what do you think you do different from everyone on your team that makes you stand out the most? And obviously the coach continues to pick you in the 11 because obviously you earned his trust. But like, what do you think is like your part of the game? Like everybody has like, this guy, I'm best at dribbling. I think I'm the best at this. I'm the best at that. You know what I mean? But yeah, Adam, you can take off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna age myself here a bit, but growing up with Man United, it was always Paul Scholes. Paul Scholes is the one I modeled myself after, and
player,
just technique. And I guess Joel would probably know that because I didn't run around very much.
Yeah,
it wasn't very fast, but my timing was good. I kind of thought my way through football matches, and that's why I had a good college career. It's why I was, an All-American. Like I just good timing in the box, getting on the end of crosses, finding pockets, and finding outlets. I mean, like that's what was so important to me. That's something that I brought and tried to bring at least as often as I can. But yeah, Joel, what would you say? Like, what are the things that you would focus on? Like, these are the things. And I think like this is something that I try and tell players as most is what I said when I was at university as a captain. It's what I said to most of my teammates now, even still in the VMSL and the kids. Like bare minimum, what do you expect of yourself? Like when I'm having a shocker, this is how I positively affect the team.
Yeah.
Because that's something that you have to be able to do at the next level. You're gonna have a bad fucking game, but
of course.
What at bare minimum, I'm doing this. This is what I'm
run,
bro.
Yo,
that's honestly
it,
what I was gonna say, bro. That's honestly what I was gonna say. Like, first of all, I think players growing up now, bro, my biggest thing would just be honest with yourself, bro. Like, people, smart coaches and people that know football are gonna know what you're good at and what you're not, right? So you. Like your cards are shown. Like you should know what you're good and bad at. Like as a player first, don't lie to yourself. Don't think you're, a free kick taker when you're not. Like you will never see me take one free kick in the MLS, bro, ever. Like I just know what I'm good at and know what I'm not good at, right? And I make sure that what I'm good at, I stay really good at, and what I'm bad at, I can get it up and up and up and keep learning and keep improving, right? So I think that's the first thing. For me myself, the bare minimum, like I was going to say, you run. My dad always told me when I grew up, if you're having can I swear on this podcast or no?
Absolutely. I've already done it 4 times.
If you're having a shit game, the least you can do is run, get the ball, and give it to someone who is having a good game, right?
Literally,
that's what he told me. And that's why, I ran so much as a 6 and an 8. Like, if I was having a shit game, go get the ball and give it to someone that's having a good game. And he's like, if I don't see that, don't tell me about being a professional footballer, because it's like you said, you're going to have bad games. Like, you're not going to be on. You might have circumstances in your life where you're not be playing well. It might be bad form, bro. There's ebbs and flows. You're up and down in this profession. Everyone that you guys know, bro, it's like that. Like, it's so frustrating sometimes you're not playing well. You don't know why. It comes back around. You just got to be patient, but that's a different discussion. But the least you can do is run. And then to answer your other question, I think the thing that I do most is, obviously, I think my biggest strength is with my feet and just taking chances and taking risks, right? Like, as a center back, it's risky because if you do make a mistake, it's probably in the back of your net. But if you become very effective at it and very good at it, it's such a plus to have, especially now in this day and age, to have a ball playing center back. I think I had to learn, as a CB, your defending is the most important thing first. And I think as a backline as a whole, even as a left back on me, defensively, you got to be sound first. That's it. But to have an extra edge over other center backs that you might be going up against, you have to be able to play the ball at the back. If the ball starts with you, right? The keeper rolls it to you. You don't want the ball in the keeper's feet. Give it to you. You start the attack. You set the tempo. All those different kinds of things, right? So for me, I think that's what kind of separates me. And then there's other qualities too. I think, your personality comes out, how's your leadership, those types of things. And those are things I'm working on now. I captained the team at Trinity my last year, and I was a shit captain looking back. I just,
the intangibles, man.
I'm going to talk to Mike about that.
Because
I was captain of UConn. I was worried about myself too.
For sure, bro.
It goes back to it goes back to what you said. Like, some people weren't trying to go to the next level. Some people were. I'm like, nah, if y'all not trying to take me to the next level, then F you. Yeah, I have the captain's armband. I'm going to say whatever I want. But nah, it's gonna be about to be selfish time. So it's like, yo, fuck off. I'm doing this. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hindsight, it's not good. You didn't develop intangibles. So.
Yeah, bro. But it's exactly that. It's like I don't have time to worry about, what you guys want to do right now. Like I'm just trying to get to where I'm trying to get to, and but now you grow into it, and your leadership styles start to come out, and how you treat other people, and all those different types of things. But yeah, man. I mean, I think the standout thing is just what I can do with the ball at my feet, and how I start attacks, and the dynamics I give in that way, for sure.
All right, man. Hey, jumping back into, so I just want to touch on Trinity really quickly. Looking back at your kind of decision process, was it always just, I want to go to Trinity? Were they the only ones in the market at the time? Were you kind of picking and choosing between different ones, or kind of discuss what that?
No, I wanted to go to the States because at that time, being a professional footballer going through the Canadian ranks wasn't a thing. Like, I wanted to go to D1. I wanted to go to the MLS draft. I wanted to do all those things. Then I took the SATs and I said, nah, this ain't for me, bro. Like, there was only after, bro, like, this ain't for me. So I was like, let me stay closer to home. It was like a 20-minute drive from the crib. I said, let me just stay home. And that time Trinity had some decent players, but we were shit. We were like bad. And I was like, I want to get this, to a place where we're at nationals and we put the school back on the map type thing. Right. And it's just something when I visited the school, meeting the coaches, the players, just the vibe, bro. It's a private Christian school. If you guys don't know that, and people watching this, it's at that time I had no faith. I was like, why did I pick the school, bro? Like, I just wanted to go there for footy, and that was it. But I'm so grateful I did that. It was the best 5 years of my life, both football wise and personally. I grew so much as a person, which I think helped me now. I think if I went to a D1 school and went through the MLS draft, God willing, if I made it that far, I just have a whole different like humility now than I would have if I went through that journey. Like, I feel like a lot of guys make it too early and they think they've made it, and then they stop working, and then they actually, they might play, MLS for, might be on the second team for about a couple months, and then they won't reach the first team, and they stop working, bro. And it's, for me, I had to learn to like, hey, I'm at the bottom, I'm in the basement. Like, not that Trinity was the basement, but it obviously wasn't a D1 school by any means, or we didn't have the level of players that those types of schools get. So I said, it's the situation I'm in. I said, let me see how far I can, take this and make it the best I can be. So that's what I did. And then it just taught me how to keep working. I have that same mentality now. Like, I don't think I've made it. There's obviously times along your journey where you have to stop and like celebrate. Like when I got that call in December when they wanted to sign me, like I was like, I'm rich now. Like, I'm gonna go buy like a Louis V bag, bro. But then you kind of come back to reality and be like, you haven't done anything yet, like with your career. But it's you have to have a good balance of, being content and good with where you're at, but also like pushing and striving for, how far you want to take it and how good you actually want to be. So, yeah, man, it was a no-brainer for me to go to Trinity after I visited the school and met the players and stuff like that. And it was the best decision in my career probably thus far.
Damn, bro. Yeah, 100%. Like you said, a lot of us have been through the college ranks. Me and Adam have also been through that. But fast forward to 2019 when you decide to stay with Calvary Foothills to go to Calvary FC. You guys are taking the league by storm. Let me tell you, the game winner y'all scored against us in Hamilton in the 97th minute. I'm like, damn, these guys is actually nice. We're like, nah, they're gonna lose eventually. Didn't happen. We're like, damn, bro. These guys just keep winning, because we were on the verge of winning that game. We're like, yo, there's no way. Then he just scored like 2 goals. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, nah, they're gonna end up losing. So then we end up. I remember I think we lost another game. I think it was to Halifax, whatever, when I was at Forge. And then we played you guys. It was like the second last game of the spring season, and we played you guys at home. We're like, nah, we need to get this win. You guys totally dominated us, but we won 1-0 off of like 3 shots. That was my first time playing Calgary, and I didn't even know that like y'all had elevation and everything. So first 20 minutes, I'm blowing first 20. I'm like, God damn.
Kwami's never seen mountains before. He came out west, and he's finally seen
like, I mean, I've been to Vancouver and stuff like that. So but I never played in the middle of Canada. I'm like, yo, what? Like, what's
It's
here?
not the middle of Canada, man. It's the West.
No, man. Calgary is the middle of Canada,
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Calgary is the middle of Canada, bro. Okay, Saskatchewan, whatever. But anyways, what would you say, like, your experience in the CPL has been like, and what did you think going into the CPL? Because I can tell you how I thought feeling going into the CPL. And my feeling going to the CPL, I'm like, damn, this is a brand new league. I came from one of the best teams in the MLS. I was playing one, Jared Pirlo. I was a cocky little prick. I won't even lie. Not cocky, but I was like, yo, and I'm going to Forge. I'm playing with all my homies that also came from MLS teams. I'm like, yo, we're about to pop team. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, this is about, I wasn't thinking it was going to be light because, like, we're still playing against grown men. And, like, grown men are not just going to lay down and let you walk all over them. But I was like, yo, we should be able to ball out. And how you guys started off and how we started off, everyone was like, wow, Forge is really struggling. And y'all were flying high. So how was your experience? And, like, what did you think about the league? Obviously, you're 1 year there. And then how was your experience?
Yeah, bro. I probably had the same mindset as you. Like, when I got drafted the first year to Calvin 14th overall from university, bro, I wasn't even going to go in the draft because I was like, yo, 6 teams or 7 teams. Like, I was like, brand new league. I don't know how the crowds are going to be. Is this the right step? Like, bro, there's so many unknowns about the league. And then we went to the Dominican for preseason. And I was like, all right, like, these guys are putting some money into this, right? Like, they brought us to the Dominican, bro. Like,
2 weeks, that was a lit trip. Can't lie.
Bro. I said, okay, let me go to the Dominican. Let me see how it goes, and then, like, I'll make my decision kind of after that. But yeah, bro, I was pleasantly surprised. Like, they took care of the business side of it well. I think they put money into it, which is good. Obviously, looking at our stadium, like a brand new stadium, you know, Halifax gets 6,000-7,000 still. Like, I wish obviously there's more at every stadium, but I think that'll come as more teams come in and more people, you know, get pushed on and sold and whatnot. But the experience was good, bro. I think we had an edge just because a lot of our guys played together the year before. And then obviously you saw it was you guys and us. Like, no other team could compete, bro. We knew, you know, after the first couple weeks, it was going to be us two in the final. And it's, you know, now there's a bit more parity and you know, you see Atletico Ottawa and things of that nature. But my experience, bro, like, I was very pleasantly surprised. Like, the different supporters groups, the level I thought was really, really good, considering, again, it's hard to call it a professional league at that time because then you got guys from, I was fresh out of college, bro. Like, I'm not a pro. And then you got, you know, international guys coming in. Like, at that time we had Dominic Malonga, Julian Boucher, yourself. Like, you guys were in MLS. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna have to come in, play against, like, MLS guys. And, like, you know, I was like, we might get bopped. Like, we weren't even sure if we were going to be good. Like, preseason happened. We were like, okay, we're okay. Played York. And I'm just like, a lot of just unknowns, bro. And I think it was just, taking it as it came and just enjoying it and trying to get the most out of it. Like I said, like, at any, you know, at my youth teams, you know, I had Tommy the year before that. I knew I liked him, so I knew I liked the coach, but I wasn't really sure what to expect, bro, but I was pleasantly surprised with the level.
Yeah, man, like, for sure. Like, obviously my experience was definitely different. Like, we had guys that I played with in youth, and then everybody went on their own journeys, and then coming back together, you would think automatically you'll get the chemistry back again, but it wasn't necessarily like that. The one thing I could give Calvary, especially 2019, was that you guys ran. God damn, bro. Like, Nico Pasquati, Julian ran, covered so many ground. The only person that probably didn't run was Malonga, but he was just in the box. Like, he barely ran. He didn't want to press or nothing. Like, Sergio Camargo runs. I'm like, damn, bro. Like, if worst came to worst, you knew you guys were gonna run. So that's when we knew we had to put, like, all right, we're pulling up our socks. It's gonna be a work day. You know what I mean? So that rivalry, I used to say, like, after a while, I stopped calling. I think it was after 2019. We stopped calling it a rivalry because then we just started beating you guys, and it was like, all right, it's not fun. But I'm gonna pass it on to Adam. The 2019 fight in the Canadian Championship. Wow. What a way to set a league off by storm. You don't have to get into the specifics, but what a way to set a league off by storm. Halfway through the season, Shirts are off, fists are flying.
Bro.
Like an NFL fucking.
I wasn't even there, bro. I think I was injured at that time because there was like a middle of the season part where I broke my toe, so I was out for like 6 weeks. I think I was injured, but I was watching on TV, bro. I'm like, nah, I don't even remember the score of that game. Did we win? Or
it was 1-1, and we lost.
Right,
penalty or something like that. No, we lost. We tied 1-1 the first leg, and then we came to you guys and we lost 2-1 in the second leg. Yeah. So that was wild, bro. I think we scored like the 90th minute again. Nico went down. It was like I think it was a soft PK penalty.
We got the PK, and then bro, I saw
we had
like Dominic
to put
Malonga.
Cisse in that. We had to put Alex Achinodia in that.
Oh yeah, Tristan got the red, bro. He came off his line.
Yeah,
bro, but that was I think that was good though for the league. Like obviously, like you said, like the details of it. I don't know what the details of it are, and we won't speak on that. But seeing that and getting the rivalry, honestly, I stopped calling it a rivalry after like that year too, just because like it was other teams were getting involved now. Like you started talking about like York and whatever. But nah, man, every league has some sort of rivalry like that, bro, and it only makes things spicier and make things better. And for the fans, it was good. It had people, talking shit on Twitter and stuff like that.
Hilarious.
All content's good content, fellas. Welcome to the content game.
Bro. Man. So I think that's what it needs. And as it's gonna get bigger and bigger, it's gonna keep growing like that. And there's gonna be more rivalries and new, players hating each other and teams hating each other. So I think it's good, man. It's good.
Yeah, 100%.
So do you two think that you were automatically just like basically playing out the rest of the season until you met in the final, or what?
Yeah.
How you both felt? You're
yeah.
The one thing was that I think the one thing was like these guys won the spring season, and we're like, nah, man, we got to win the fall season because they smoked the spring season. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
So like, I think it was like after the end of the season, if you count the championship, we tied in points. But like before the championship, they beat us by 3 points. And I almost thought about it. I'm like, yo, maybe it's because this past year we finished in first, but we lost the final. I'm like, yo, maybe it's better to not host the final. Because we won both our trophies away from home. Yeah. Obviously the island games, which they did well in, but like we went to the Pacific came to us. They had one shot on 2 shots, 1 shot on goal, and they ended up winning. I was like, nah, man. Yeah. So
there's something to that. There's something to that for sure.
Yeah. At least all those finals have been memorable though, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of them, this one man, we won't name names, got a red card for handballing in the box, and he swore that like it wasn't a handball. I'm like, dog, you did it on purpose. Because if he didn't touch it, man's on the breakaway.
Bro, I honestly swear, bro, to this day, bro.
Yeah, if you don't touch it with your hand, man's on a breakaway. That's all I'm saying.
No, for sure. But honestly, I did not mean to do it on purpose, bro. Like I just slid and like left my arm there and it hit it. I said, nah, bro. Like
I just slid. I left it there. And it hit it. And I just left my arm in the right place for it to stop the ball.
I can slide both arms by my side. You know what I mean?
Yeah, bro.
But
I was like, hell yeah.
I said all this work, this long season, and now I can't even play, bro. I said
I'm out of here. I'm going to Montreal.
That final at your home too was tough. Let me tell you. I had like a last ditch tackle on Nico in the 18. I'm like, bro, if I slide now and I give up a PK in like the 86th minute, I'm gonna be sad.
Yeah,
bro, I got it. I was like, yeah. I was so happy. I was like, fuck yeah. And then we'd obviously.
Nah, bro. To be honest though, like, looking back at it, bro, the better team won that year, bro. Like, I've always admired, like, I think Bobby refers to it as like total football. Like, bro, you guys just played better football. Like you said, like, we were running. You know what I mean? That was more Tommy style. Like, we had guys that could ball too, but nah, man. Like, every time you guys played, I was like, damn. Like, I was like, I probably fit that team more than I fit this team I'm on now. To be real, like you guys played football, right? And it's like we were so close. I was like, this is gonna come down to us too, and we'll battle it out. And you guys end up taking it, right? So it is what it is. We move on, right?
Yeah, buddy. And then so moving on to CF Montreal. Funny enough, I don't know if this is when you received the contract, but it was right around the time that we had off-season West. And I came up to you that day and I went, when are you signing? And you're like, bro, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. When are you signing, man? Like, come on. Like
STF got the scoop.
I actually found out in the parking lot at the off-season West Coast thing. Like they called me in the parking lot right when I was with Momedy, and we walked to the car, and they called me in the car and was like, "Yeah, it's a done deal. Like your transfer's done. Like you got to sign the papers. It's a done deal." I said, "Damn." I came back the next day. I knew, but they're like, "Yeah, you can't tell nobody." I said, "Damn." I'm with all my guys. I was like, "Yeah, but nah, I had to keep it under wraps." But it was actually in the parking lot. I found out, bro. I was like, "Yeah, I'll never forget it."
Yeah, man, that's hilarious. Because I remember that happened, and then all of a sudden, I think it got announced, and I just texted you, like, "Yeah, I know." Like,
yeah.
"Hey, we're going to Cactus tonight. Come by."
Yeah.
Hey, man, Cactus by the water in BC.
No, I was in Burnaby.
Yeah, Burnaby
Oh,
one.
the one in Burnaby. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bro,
it's
I
more
miss
central
Cactus.
for all of us.
Yeah,
I miss
and that
Cactus,
is
bro.
every time I go to Vancouver, I just tell you, just go to Cactus, and
Yeah,
then go to what's the other place? I literally just went there. Parlor. Then
Yeah.
nice time. That's that.
Yeah.
What was I gonna ask? That's it. So obviously, we played each other in the CPL, played each other in the final. But when you went to Montreal, we played against each other again in the Canadian Championship semifinal. Memorable game. I think it was like 12,000 people. I think that was probably the most fans that we've had at Forge, and it was one of the that was one of the games that everybody wanted to watch. You're like, wow, Forge is going on this tear. And obviously, like, we had a shortened season from going to Winnipeg for a whole month and a half to playing 2 games every week. But this was a game that we definitely circled on our calendars. Once we got past the quarterfinal round, we're like, all right, we're playing Montreal. Everyone was locked in. We viewed it as an opportunity for us to showcase ourselves and then just put ourselves, like you said, against the best talent. Going into that game, what was your mindset? What was your coach's mindset? What were the other players' mindset? And how do you think it affected like Canadian soccer as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, for myself, it was like kind of almost like a homecoming, but like it's also like I said to you before this, I was like, we gotta watch out, like we gotta be ready. Like I knew, like we played similar styles. Like we like to keep the ball, you guys like to keep the ball. I said it's gonna be a good game, bro. Like whether or not, at your home pitch, like tough on the turf, like not what we used to. So my mentality personally was like, let's be ready. The team, I think, was more just nonchalant, just knowing, because as soon as you hear CPL, you think, lower division, blah, 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 blah. But it could be further from the truth. I said, guys, we got to be straight with these guys. Like, this isn't half-ass. Like, this is, this is a club that's won, I think at that time, back-to-back championships, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, we got to be straight. Our coach knew that. Our coach was like, these guys can play. We got to be ready. This is how we're going to set up tactically. This is how we're going to whatever. But I think that game, definitely showed the quality of, what the CPL has to offer and how not far it is from the MLS and how guys can play, at that next level if they so choose, right? Mm-hmm. I thought you guys should have won the game, but at the end of the day, we pulled out PK victory somehow after 10, 11 shooters. But at the end of the day, I didn't really care about that. I think it was for me a bit humbling, just knowing like I came from that league and people respect it, right? Like people are saying now, like, oh, he's from the CPL. Okay, yeah, that's that's light work. That's regular. Like these guys are making it to the next level, and that's what I hope to be with my play here, and just personally, like I can just keep, the best way to do it is just show people how you play, right? Don't talk about it. Don't say, yeah, I was in CPL, now I'm here, like blah, blah, like show and start week in, week out and, show people that it can be done, right? No matter what, where you at in your Canadian soccer journey, whether you're in university, youth, whatever, like this is the platform, this is the blueprint, like this is how you get there. And just playing week in, week out has obviously helped that. And I think it was a massive game, both for Canada soccer too, because I think now more than ever, Canada soccer is buzzing, especially with our national teams doing as well as it is, with how many, obviously, Toronto players they have on the team too. Me personally, I would love to see more people from BC as well. Like I want, people from Halifax, Saskatchewan, guys like really pushing and saying, you know, I can be that next guy on the come up, right? So I think that game showed too, like, it put Canadian talent on blast, I thought. So I think it showed like Canada has some really, really talented players that can play at the next level.
As crazy as it sounds, BC used to have, if you look at Canada youth soccer history,
Dogs, bro.
y'all had the most players in the youth teams, bro. BC, like when Rob Gill was like the U20 coach, it was all Manitoba and Vancouver. I was like, damn, bro.
Yeah.
He didn't rock with no one on the East Coast, yo.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Bro, I don't know why. I'm not invested enough in BC soccer and Vancouver soccer right now. Like, I'm just not at home, right? I don't get to go to the games and see like how kids are being developed, what the coaching's like. Like, I gotta go out and really probably invest more and ask around more. I don't know why it flipped, and I don't know, you know, it just could be the next generation of players. Like, you see how many guys are from Toronto, like absolute ballers that are at the next level, right? So could be that. It could be, you know, so many different things.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is if you look at when Rob kind of was in between Manitoba and BC. Before that, Dale Mitchell lives in BC. The 86 World Cup, you go back to that, Leonard Doozy and Alan Arrington lived in BC. Well, the majority of the players, who do they see all the time? Now it's flipped, right? Now all the coaching staff live in Toronto. So that's 100% part of it. But then the other side of it, I think, is a generational thing where BC went through. That's the one thing that I am filled with the most regret, is looking at the generation that was not just mine and Joel's, but right before us.
Yeah.
There were some good players, man, that just couldn't quite, not necessarily couldn't cut it with the Whitecaps in USL, but it was literally only the Whitecaps in USL at the time.
Yeah.
There was no one else. So it's like, if there was a CPL back then, if we were able to kind of do that, maybe would the landscape be different? Would it be more balanced? Like, it's tough to say. Yeah. But that's just kind of, you know, obviously growing up wanting to represent the home province. And
John Herdman actually lives in Vancouver now.
Yeah,
his son plays for Vancouver. He plays for Vancouver too.
He lives in Richmond. Yeah.
BC. So I mean, I definitely understand that concept. If all the coaches are from one area, then 100% that's all they're going to see. But talking about national team, you get your first call up in what, 2021? Is it 2021 or was it this year? 2021.
Yeah, it was last year.
Okay. Walk me through that process. How did you feel when you first got the notification? I got called up in 2017, 2018 with Octavio Zambrano, obviously a whole different coaching staff. And I knew how I felt. I felt like, wow, I wasn't playing that much at New York City, but just to be able to represent my country was always a big thing to me. And this was something I looked forward to because I didn't get called into youth teams. So I can imagine how you felt, obviously doing your grafting through the A1, A2, you know what I mean? So yeah, tell me how you felt when you received that call up and your experience in the national team camp.
Yeah, man, it was one of the best moments of my life. Like you said, like, you actually put it in perspective. Like, even now, like, I'm not sure when you made it too, like, what is it, the squad at that time, like, it was probably about 25, 26 at the camp. Like, you're one of the best. I mean, obviously some guys were injured or whatever, but say you're top 50 players in the whole country. Like, how many kids are playing football? How many kids want to make it there? Like, that's already mad in itself, thinking about that, because you're just like, what you've come from and how hard you've had to work, and now you're part of like a 50, even like 100, you know, spots in the national team. It was, I said, I couldn't believe it. And it's something that was like truly like humbling. I'm like, wow, like just how far I made it, how quick it happened, I think was the most surprising part. But that experience was incredible, just seeing how the culture was, how the coaches worked, you know, playing with the best of the best. Learning again from a different coaching staff. The experience was incredible, and having those conversations with John Herdman and just, you know, what he wanted from me and you know, to keep playing well for Montreal, to keep learning, to keep building myself, was all I really needed to hear to kind of sustain my position here and to give me that extra push. I'm still chasing that first cap, because the games when there was COVID and stuff like that too. So we only played a couple inter squad games. So I'm still looking for that first cap. And again, that's another part where I'm glad I didn't almost get it, because if I got it, I would think, okay, my job's done. Like right now, I wouldn't be pushing so hard to be, you know, on that plane to guitar, right? So amazing experience, something I'll never forget. And yeah, when I got that call, it was yeah, crazy. It was something I was like, damn, we're here. It was one of those moments like when you're in it and you're going so fast, you don't realize it. And then that was, like I said before, another moment where I had to stop and be like, hey, you got to enjoy this. Like, you know, I think a bunch of my friends came over, family. We had a big party just for that moment. So you got to celebrate those little moments, right?
Yeah, get ready, pal. You're gonna get another call soon.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
just
man.
calling it. I called
keep playing. Yeah, man. You keep playing the way you're playing, 100%.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, I gotta give myself.
Especially the center back position is kind of thin. You know what I mean? There's guys that are in and out of playing, but if you're consistently playing, I don't see why not. Right? I told Adam the biggest question mark might be, and as much people don't think about it, it's an important position, the second goalkeeper. And that's up for grabs because obviously you're not Borjan playing, like Milan's going to play most of the games, but you have Dane, who's MLS All-Star, and you have Maxime, who's on the best team in MLS right now. So like that's going to be a tough decision as well, right? Like who's going to get to dress? Yeah, who's going to get to dress when it does come to World Cup time, right?
Yeah.
And there's other guys still knocking on the door, like James Pantemis, like, you know what I mean? So that's a decision that is going to have to be made.
There's only so many spots, right? And we go back to what separates you and what makes you, you know, a no-brainer to be picked, right? So there's tons of intangibles, different things that, you know, the culture has to be right. You know, how you interact with your teammates, chemistry. You know, I'm sure those are all things that John's thinking about when he makes his selection, right?
Such a professional answer. You can play in all three of those spots.
PC, bro. PC.
I'm calling it right now.
PC answer.
Hey, just a question for both of you, because obviously Kwame, you played with Andrea Pirlo, David Villa, was Lamps there too?
Yeah.
Oh, and
no, Lamps left after.
Lamps had left. All right.
Oh, and
Lamps
just there, bro.
Patrick Vieira, just Patrick Vieira too as your manager, and then obviously Joel with Thierry Henry and now Victor Wanyama. Quick question: how is it that when they scream at you, you don't just smile and be like, I can't believe he's screaming at me. This is the best moment of my life. Like, how do you hear the message without thinking? Do you go through a moment like when you first get it where you're like, oh my God?
Yeah, a little bit. Like, I mean, it was worse with Thierry because we had no fans. So you could hear him. Like, you couldn't ignore him.
You could hear him on the TV. You hear him on the TV.
Bro. Like when there's fans, you can kind of ignore your coach a little bit. I can hear you. But there's no fans, bro. You have to look. And it's like you make a mistake, it's put on blast and everyone can see it, bro. That was the worst part about having no fans. And but Thierry was, I couldn't smile because it was scary, bro. Like this guy he demanded so much from us, like no coach I've ever had, because he's been there, right? He's played at the highest level, so he expects that. And unfortunately, the MLS just isn't that yet, right? I don't know if I'll ever get there. Who knows? That's just a separate conversation. But for me, that one was scary. Victor's a bit more easier to take because he demands a lot, but he's also the most humble guy you'll ever meet. He doesn't act like he's played for Tottenham, played for Southampton, played for South. Like he doesn't act like that at all.
Played in Champions League final.
Yeah, he's one of the most humble guys you'll ever meet. Always smiling, always cracking jokes. Like me and him have actually gotten really, really close. But when Thierry screams at you, like he's one of the he goes down as best striker ever in my opinion. Like he's just that good. And like when he's screaming at you, bro, like you're like, man, like I shouldn't be playing this sport. Because then you see him like joining in training too, and it's like you think you're good, but like after seeing him, you're like, wow, I'm actually shit. Like I'm shit. Like how am I at this level, bro? Like because he would join in, and like him, even when Boyan was with our team, like him and Boyan, like they would be the neutrals in a possession, bro. These guys would be passing each other, just them. They wouldn't use anybody else, bro. I'd be on the outside just sitting, looking, watching, and then the ball gets to me. I would fuck up, and then like everyone would get mad. He'd get mad, bro. It was crazy. But like I said, I think you have different coaches and all these things for a reason, bro. Like I think you can learn so much from any of them, whether it's good or bad. But yeah, that was my kind of experience with him. But Victor's a lot more easy to take.
Yeah, see, so Pirlo was just the calm one. Like if he had something to say to you, he'll come to you and just tell you, be like, but he was at the end of his career. Like, this was his last year when I was with him. So you found it so much more gracious when he said something to you, even if it was like, hey, come on, this and that. But for me personally, he was the first person that like I introduced myself to. Cause I'm like, hell yeah, bro. This is Pirlo. Like, yeah, David was there. Patrick, obviously I met Patrick through the draft and everything like that. But when Pirlo was there, I was like, damn, bro, I gotta get on this guy's good side. But ever since then, me and him has always had a good relationship. Like when we used to play on the same team in training, I would be like, you know what, I'm gonna run for you because I know you can't run no more. I'm gonna run for you. I'm gonna win the ball. I'm gonna give you the ball. If I don't give him the ball, he'd look at me. He'd be like, he just give me a look. And he's like, I was like, he's like, next time just give me the ball. I said, all right, you got it. Like he was one of those, bro. That's the best. Like David was obviously still more mobile and everything, but pure football wise, nah, man, Pirlo's the best player I've ever played with. And then Patrick is a giant. Like now I look back at it, I remember one day we were at a away game. It was like in Philly, and I was watching the EPL Classics. It was Arsenal versus Tottenham, and Patrick got the ball from half, dribbled everybody, and like they'll dink over the goalkeeper. I video recorded it, and we went to lunch. I showed him like, "Wow, this was you." I'm like, "You can't even move like," because me and him, he was banter, like he'll talk shit to everyone, jokes. He was like, "I'm like, you can't move like this no more." He's like, "Yeah, that's me when I didn't have this belly." But those guys, when they joined in Rondo and everything, fam, technique out there, bro. They don't lose that. It doesn't go away. And in training, because like he wanted me to get better, he'll take the ball and just like if we're doing passing drills, like we do a passing circuit, he'll just fire it at you. And if you take a bad touch, he's like, "Come on, Kwame," with his French accent. I'm like,
yeah.
So I could imagine like Thierry Henry. I think your situation must be different because he came from Belgium, assistant coach in Belgium, to head coach in Montreal. Patrick actually went through youth ranks, like Man City, like he coached Jadon Sancho, those guys, like developmental. So he understood how young players were. Like you weren't gonna be perfect. So he yelled more at the bigger guys. Like he would yell at Pirlo, he would yell at David. But the younger guys, when they made a mistake, he was like, "Yo, don't worry. Like this is what you need to work on." It was a lot more a better communication line. So, but I can understand Thierry Henry. But I heard like that's how he was. Like I heard like he was like. But if you're coming from coaching De Bruyne and then you're going to like no offense, like Kamal Miller and like yo, of course there's gonna be in disparity.
Yeah, Kwame, I'm pretty sure you're not the only one that can say that Pirlo was the best player they played with. Probably about 99% of other players in the world.
That is true. I was watching an old highlight. It was the Euro 2016. I think it was the last time the man can actually fully sprint. When Italy or 2016, where Italy and Spain were in the Euro final, and Pirlo was cooking. I was like, yo, I played with this guy, and like sometimes you forget how nice they actually were. And then one day you see a highlight, you're like, nah, these guys was it. Like these are the top 10 strikers ever, Thierry Henry, top 10 midfielders ever, Patrick Vieira and Pirlo. You're like, dog, these guys are them guys, bro.
Yeah.
You got a hats off to them. And then David was just a David, bro.
Yeah, David is
crazy. He's one of my favorite players growing up. He's one of my favorite
He's one of my favorite FIFA players too. He was one of my favorite FIFA players too, man.
Yeah.
Bro, he used to tell me stories at Barcelona. I'm like, man, these guys actually lived it. And as funny as it sounds, Pirlo beat Patrick Vieira in the World Cup final. So anytime Patrick yells at Pirlo, I'm like, what happened? He's like, Pirlo would be like, oh, it's probably because he's still mad that they beat him in the World Cup final. You know, you can't hold that over your coach.
Hold that, bro.
Crazy. Hold that. You can't tell him nothing.
Bro, you can't say shit to me, bro.
And then David beat Pirlo in the Euro final.
Okay.
So then to go to the World Cup final, Patrick beat David against Spain. So it's like a whole three-man thing. So it's funny, bro.
Yeah.
And that shit's funny. We be making jokes about it all the time, bro.
Yeah, that's unreal.
That would be top banter.
Yeah,
oh my god! Top. How does it get better?
I beat you in the World Cup. Like, bro, these guys like be your fight about. Like CPL, North Star Shield.
Yeah, dog. They're talking about World Cup finals, bro. The same World Cup Pirlo said he played PlayStation before.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, he's that guy.
Crazy.
Holy hell, Jesus. Anyway, hey Joel, what's Montreal doing right? What are they doing right? Like they take yourself right out of CPL. Alistair playing right back, really for the first time, because he was a center midfielder most of his collegiate career. And then last year at Wake Forest goes there, has a good year at Nashville, but now it's kind of transferring him to, a right wing back. Kamal was a second choice left back.
Center. Yeah.
At Orlando. And then even the one who has progressed a ton this year is Sammy Piette. He's gotten so clean technically, and he's gotten a little bit smarter, I find, with his movement and his positioning. He always seems to be in the right spot. His timing seems to be what are you guys doing better?
I think it's a lot of things. I think we have most of the same group from last year, so I think that helps. You saw last year we made huge strides, and then we wanted to play, and just tactically and physically and all those types of things. So you keep the same guys together for a long period of time, you're obviously going to get more chemistry and things of that nature. Like you said, individuals are stepping up. Myself, Mills, Alistair, they've done a great job in terms of transfers. Sammy, you got guys that are playing at such a higher level now that just need an opportunity. I think you guys know probably more than anybody, sometimes players need an opportunity, and once you give them that, they rise to the occasion and say, you know what, coach believes in me, he trusts in me, even if I mess up here a couple games, get that way, whatever, he keeps playing me. You get over those humps and you find a rhythm and you find momentum. I think this momentum is huge. We've had, 2 times this year where we've been unbeaten in 8 games. So that's been unheard of in our history. And I think it comes down to having the right guys in the locker room too. Personalities. Kai Kamara has been massive for us. He's just turned 38 today, been basically on every MLS team and third on the list, all-time goal scoring, and great locker room guy. So you bring a vet in like that who knows the system, knows the league. So I think there's so many things that have to go well and for your team to have success. I think there's so many things off the pitch have to be right, on the pitch, obviously. I don't think people understand, how things have to line up for a team to do well. Sometimes you just have the talent, like you look at a team like LAFC, have Gareth Bale coming off the bench. We don't have that luxury. Our staff structures it that way. And they said, we don't need, 3 DPs to go out and win a championship. You can see we've been doing really well with just, obviously Victor, and he's just a 6, right? Romel Kyoto, obviously 15 goals, another guy that's stepped it up and been unreal for us this year. So I think it's so many different things, man.
Nah, man, watching you guys, I'm like, these guys, you guys have a type of confidence and belief in one another, you know what I mean? In confidence in yourselves as well. I mean, watching you guys played Forge, I was like, damn, you guys really, obviously it wasn't the Forge of the year before, but you could tell the way you guys were playing, the confidence was there. You guys, even though you guys have respect for us, but now you're like, hey, it's time for teams to start having respect for us. You know what I mean? People look at Montreal, they're like, oh, I mean, maybe this is an easy win. Maybe this, but now you guys have put Montreal back on the map. Nah, this is not easy. Especially after losing Piatti and all those guys. It used to be just okay, just watch Piatti and then everybody else, whatever. Yeah. Especially when I was at New York City FC, we're yo, if we lock down Piatti, and he was a super baller. I'm if we lock that guy down, then then it's good. But now you guys have different threats. You guys can go in behind, you guys can play, you guys can change it up. And that's an important thing, and just evolving in general. And your young guys are stepping up too. It's not just your DPs, because they're the guys that you pay a lot of money because they're the guys that are, you know what I mean? They're supposed to be doing that. But when the young guys step up, like Matthew Choinière, you know what I mean, playing out of position, I think that's an important thing too. So, I mean, if we talk about Sammy, I feel like earlier in his career at Montreal, they were just asking him to do too much. And now he's playing where he has Victor there, and he doesn't have to do all that. He doesn't have to go and try to build the game by himself. He doesn't have to do all the defending, the tackling, because he has a partner who's really experienced and one of the best footballers in the league as well. So I think that's another step that the coaching staff has made, and it's benefited the team.
Absolutely.
So how much has Laurent Simon helped, especially with that defensive unit?
Huge. I mean, me personally, and then obviously as a unit too, he just has a wealth of experience, playing at the highest level, right? So, he's tightened us up on set pieces. Last year we were shit on set pieces, and this year we're obviously a lot better. And then just easy mistakes, goals. Our box defending has gotten way better, even since the beginning of the season. And then I think our biggest thing was, you know, obviously you have tactics as a backline, you have tactics as a whole team, but obviously as a backline too. And sometimes, like, you see, I think now more than ever, like I think it was against New England, like Kamal had an insane block in our box. I was sliding, like we're just throwing our bodies on the line for anything. We're thinking more like defenders and making sure that we don't concede. Like clean sheets haven't been coming by easy this year for us. I think we only have like 4 or 5, but it's obviously the type of players we have. I think you look at our back line, we're not, you know, typical 6'3", 6'4", headed away type center backs. We're guys that like to have the ball at our feet. We're more like hybrids. We like to press. We like to take chances, go 1v1 at the back. So obviously you're going to concede more goals, but he's really cleaned things up set piece wise, box defending, having that tenacity for all of us to get in that mindset, you know, bail your teammates out if they make a mistake, put your body on the line, block, those types of things. And then obviously me personally, he's been huge. I've seen so much growth in my game from the beginning, and a wealth of it has been obviously from, you know, Will and Paul Muir, my assistant coach, but him too. He's worked so specifically with me in terms of video and, you know, even my passing and stuff like that. Certain passes over 40 yards, you know, smaller, shorter passes. So he's been massive.
Okay, so obviously Lawrence Simon went from Montreal to Toronto FC, back to Montreal, to bounce back. I'm not sure if he told you about his career, how he could have went to Chelsea. Like it was almost on the dotted line. And like he was one of the most sought out, like for 40 million, I think. Like he was like a super baller. And then when he was in the Euro squad, was it World Cup squad or Euro squad? One of those, while
World
playing
Cup.
in MLS, World Cup squad, right? For Belgium. And everybody was like, wow, that's when I realized, I'm like, nah, this guy is a real big time baller, especially playing out the back. And like, his athleticism dwindled down as he got older, but he was always still respected, especially being on the ball. I want to ask you some speed questions. But you ain't got time to think, because I'm going to move like a real media guy right now. Yeah. It's just a soccer speed question.
Gonna test both your media credentials right here. How trained are you?
Yeah. Yes, sir. All right. Ramos or Puyol?
Ramos.
Oh, look at that. Hey, Ramos?
Ramos.
All right. Obviously, I'm going to get you with the Messi or Ronaldo.
Ronaldo.
Man U or Man City?
Oh, neither.
Neither? Who do you support in the Premier League? Liverpool? Okay. So I'm guessing you're cheering for Liverpool for everything else.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
Xavi or Iniesta?
Oh, bro, these are bro, I can't even choose, bro. I'm gonna go Iniesta.
Iniesta? Okay. Brazilian Ronaldo or Zidane?
Brazilian Ronaldo.
Hey, Adam was like, dang.
Zidane.
Gerrard or Lampard? Then you can't use your LFC card. Look at him using his LFC card.
Scholes.
Gerrard.
Scholes or Beckham?
Scholes.
Look, Adam, don't get mad.
Scholes.
He's like, don't shake your head.
Scholes.
All right.
There's only one right answer there. And I love David Beckham. David Beckham was like, him and Paul Scholes, like growing up, I wore number 7 because of David Beckham.
Yeah.
Jeez. All right. The last one that I have on my mind is another English one, because Adam, this is for you. Ferdinand or John Terry?
John Terry.
Rio
is
is a Rolls Royce, man. Rio is.
Are you a United fan?
Yeah, great grandfather.
Yeah, that's
John Terry was good, man. Like John Terry was one of those players who right left feet. Like John Terry was one of those ones who you could throw in any era. Yeah. But I think like if you throw Rio Ferdinand into this era now, I think he's better than Van Dijk. Like he was the original mold for that. Like he was a Rolls Royce. The guy just moved different. I just think like, again, different era where better sports science, I think his career stretches. But
yeah.
But hey,
so, those are tough.
Yeah, those were
brutal.
Bro.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I could go more, because I'm sure you watch other sports, but we don't really gotta talk about that. My last thing is, how have you been able to deal with media in general while coming to CF Montreal? I mean, obviously Calvary, like you had media, but it wasn't that like you know what I mean? It's a lot different, especially in St. Louis here than it was at Forge. And it was a lot crazier in New York than it was here, right? So how have you dealt with that? Obviously being a big market team, I would say Montreal's a big market team. No, Adam?
Oh yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
especially like the fans in Montreal and the media in
Yeah.
Montreal are super unique. And you kind of realize that, especially as going to hockey with the Habs and stuff. Like it is, it's a whole different ball game out there.
Yeah. So how have you been able to obviously deal with that, and what's your experience with that?
Yeah, I was just going to mention the hockey part. I think, the NHL, the Canadians are obviously, because they've won the most Stanley Cups out of anybody, like knowing that market and growing up, like watching hockey and stuff like that, I knew the fans were crazy. Like they love you when you win, but they hate you when you lose. So it's like, obviously our market isn't as big as the hockey market, but, we saw passionate fans that care. And when we were going through the, the whole brand change thing, and with Thierry leaving and so many different things I had to deal with in my first couple of years that I didn't expect. You really see, ones that the guys that love the impact, and then the guys that are like, okay, we're okay with the brand change, we'll still support the team, and it's kind of divided, right? Like we don't even have one supporter section that shows up to our games anymore. Like they were that, hard pressed and mad about the brand change, right? So, I mean, the media is it can be a good tool, but it can also be, a rabbit hole of difficulty if you don't do it properly, and you don't, protect your own soul and protect your mind, because you can start to really believe, the things people say. Like I said, as long as you're honest with yourself, and I knew what I was good at, what I wasn't good at, in my first year, in my second year, and even now, right? So, you kind of separate, which people know what they're talking about and which people don't. 99% of people honestly don't know what they're talking about in terms of, football and, what we go through on a daily basis in terms of the stuff that, even outside of football, people don't understand. So I think it's, it's difficult at some points because they might not be on your side if you're not performing. But, you just got to remember, like, it really, at the end of the day, doesn't matter. Like, you have to just focus on yourself and focus on the team and kind of drown that noise out. I don't really have any ways of really doing that. For me, like, I deleted Twitter for a bit. Like, if you can't handle that, you're not that type of person, maybe delete some social media or, whatever you need to do to kind of keep your mind straight, because that's the worst part, is believing in that stuff and thinking it's true about yourself and your play and whatever may be said, even the good stuff too. Like sometimes, like, I'll be on Twitter and I'll see like lots of good stuff, and then you start to feel yourself, and then you start to be like overconfident, and you start to be a prick to people, and it's like, you don't want that either, right? So I think it can go either way, but I just got to use the media as a tool, right? It's a tool to potentially like enhance your career a little bit, or get out in the community and things of that nature. But yeah, if you're not careful, it'll take you by storm.
How's your French?
Luckily, I took French immersion in high school for 3 years, so I understand it. It's just speaking it is, and that's another thing too in this.
Have you got shit? Have you got shit for it yet, or what?
Well, yeah, in this market, it's like if you don't speak French, they feel some type of way, right? And rightfully so, because we're in a culture that you have to adapt, whether it's just bonjour or whatever. Like try at least, right? They want to just see you trying. So for me around the club, like I'll just speak it a little bit if I can to coaches and staff members and things of that nature. But it's your job to adapt to any culture that you're in, right? So whether you agree with it or not, it's up to you what you make the most of it.
For sure, buddy. And hey, just like obviously, like, and we spoke a while ago about some stuff, and you talked about like thinking about your personal brand and everything, and that's obviously a new age thing for a lot of players. So for you, kind of like, what are you thinking's next? Because I see you doing some stuff with some clothing stuff.
A water company.
This guy's in a water.
Yo. Perfect. I'm the Waterman.
Waterman and Sons.
I'm the Waterman.
So many people, I didn't expect to hear that from you, bro.
It's the first one that came to mind, but
yeah,
that was a good one.
Hey, maybe you're onto something. You're onto something.
Yeah.
Like water,
I mean,
water,
you see the droughts in California?
Yeah,
water out there.
Yeah,
West Coast,
bro. You're onto something.
Yeah, bro. So just because, like, I think we're kind of at the precipice here where we're kind of seeing an integration now of the sport in this country and the culture. I think we're really starting to see that, and you can see it more in line with yourself taking on like, oh, this aligns with my personal brand. I want to do these things with these companies. Like what do you think's next?
For me, I'm finishing up my website. My website should be done, before hopefully the World Cup. So just to have that, an area where people can go and look at my journey, because it's, as long as, like, I've had that question tons in the media, where have you been? But a lot of people don't know the little details of what I had to go through. And then also, it's just a good platform to put on just to inspire people. Like, I'm all about, giving back to my community and making sure that I don't forget where I come from. That's why I partnered with Kids Sport, right? A charity in my hometown that raises money to get kids into sports that can't afford it, right? For me, sports like saved my life. Like, I didn't grow up in a really, really rough neighborhood, but it got me out of trouble where I could have been, Friday, Saturday nights when kids were going to parties or whatever and doing drugs, whatever it may be, drinking alcohol. Like, of course I, had some fun, but it got me out of trouble, right? I was inside every Friday night because I had a game Saturday morning, right? So just giving back to that, I really want to give back to kids and using my story and saying, okay, it can be done, especially in a small town like Aldergrove, where I'm from. You don't really hear about success stories like this, so that's really important for me. And again, like you said, aligning myself with brands that make sense, not just for the money or things I'm not interested in. Like, you'll never see me, I don't know what a good example is, but like, for instance, like candy or whatever, like, you're never going to see me endorse candy because, like, I'm of course I love candy, but I'm not going to just do it just because it makes you money, because it's not part of, the healthy lifestyle I choose to do every single day that a professional athlete needs, right? So it has to align with, your values and what you believe in too. But it's a different age. Like you said, like, guys, you'll never see me ever doing like a TikTok in the locker room either. Like, that's just not who I am. I feel
Thank God
there's a time and place for it. I think I never want my outside stuff to take hold of football, because I've worked this hard to get here. I'm going to enjoy every second of it, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to be the best I can be. But it's also super, super important to remember, like, you only can play until 34, 35, however your body holds up, right? So you want to make sure you have other passions outside the game, other hobbies, things you want to do after, and you can slowly just chip away at it, right? So that's why I came up to do my website, just slowly. That'll have all my sponsorships on there, what I'm doing in the community, things of that nature, so people can go to one place and just see it all. But yeah, man, it's a different age for a lot of players. Social media can take over your life if you're not careful. And, if you want to do that on the side and whatever, by all means. I will never let it affect my football. And for me, all those things are really important to me. Just, it has to be all encompassing kind of, what kind of legacy are you leaving, right? I just want to make sure I'm leaving something for the next generation to kind of take hold of. And like I said, here's the blueprint. Here's what I did to get here. It's not the same journey for everybody, but if I could be some type of help, I will absolutely do it. So yeah, that's what I'm kind of coming up with right now.
For sure. And hey, make sure when you do get the website to go live, shoot us over the link so we can post about that and send as many kids there. And hilarious, you mentioned that 34, 35, because we're going to break some news that Joel Waterman has agreed to play for Coquitlam Metro Ford over 35 VMSL team when his career ends.
I'm there.
Sorry, Surrey United. It's gone. You lost them. You turn your back for a minute. We signed a pre-contract. Once his career is done, he's coming to play for the over 35s at Metro Ford.
Damn, that's crazy. I'm going back to the Spanish league. I'm going back to play foot, so you don't have to run too much, bro. But Spanish league, collect the ball, pass the ball. You don't have to run too much. Futsal, that's it. That's why I'm gonna go back.
Yeah, bro. Can't wait for the days where I can just, drink that in the locker room with the boys.
It's crazy. Like a lot of people, like, I always tell people, like, we're living a great life. Like, we're grateful for everything, but we have a lot of downtime, and like, there's a lot of times where, like, the athlete life is not the best.
Yeah.
Like, you're away from home. You don't see family. You're talking to them only when they decide to take a trip or when you're on FaceTime or anything like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're living by yourself in an apartment. You have to make new friends, you have to find different things to do just to keep your time. And you can either go downhill, you can spiral if you're not a good people person, or you're easily influenced, or it can help you benefit to have long life friends. You know what I mean? So I'm happy. I'm happy that you got to experience both coasts. So, I mean, hopefully you take advantage, learn French, go back to BC, abuse it. When people are getting you upset, just start speaking French. And then be like, yo, this guy switched up on me, man. Yeah, man.
No, that's real, bro. That's the side people don't really see, right? Like going back to what I said, there's so many things that have to be in line with playing well, and like these performances just aren't by accident. Like you have to be comfortable with your surroundings, the city. Like if it's a shit city, you hate it, you're not having fun, then it's like, damn, like your football is gonna see it in your football, right? So there's just so many things that people don't see and don't understand, but you know, it's just the way it is. And like I can't remember the last time I was like out on like a Friday night, you know, like just enjoying like a meal or going to a movie midweek. Like those luxuries aren't for us. But you know, like I said, I chose to be here, right? Like I chose that vision, so you can't complain about it now if you chose to be here, right?
100%. I just don't like how people tell me how I should feel. Don't tell me how I should feel while I'm doing this. I'm like, dog, it's either I'm bored, I'm too tired to go have any type of fun after training. And when I do have time to do something, I'm like, it's too late because I got to get ready for training tomorrow morning. Exactly. So then you just sit on your couch, you sleep, you wake up, you're like, all right.
Exactly, bro.
It's repeat. Yeah, man.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, it's the catch-22 because the rest of us wish we were in your position.
It's
that's what I'm saying. It's crazy, things, right?
It's because you see all the stuff, the good stuff, right?
Grass is always greener, right? Like, anyway, buddy, JJ, thank you so much for popping on, man. That was awesome. Sir. Anytime you want to come on, just let us know. We'll have another chat like this. Just shoot the shit.
Yeah, man. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, bro. Definitely nice seeing you. Keep balling. You know what I mean? It's not no rivalry thing anymore. I'm a fan now. So, yo, keep balling. Tell Kamal Tell Kamal to grow his hair, man. I always make fun of him. We always make fun of him. I'm like, dog, in college you had a full fresh line of everything. He's like, F it, I'm not doing this no more. He's like, I'm shaving everything. But that's my G Scarborough, man. But yeah, man, hopefully you keep balling and you can deserve to get that call up to the World Cup. I know it's a small roster, but keep doing your thing. I'm sure good things will come, bro.
Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate you guys, man. I'm glad you guys started this too. God, Kwame's on here. You guys, I'm gonna keep watching episodes, bro. Like we need stuff like this just to hear from athletes and just, off the cuff and not professional, just whatever it is, what it is. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Cheers, JJ.
No problem. Cheers.
All right, guys. Later.
Later.